And we are back for the 9th episode of Fireside Chat. Today I have with me Red,
Hola.
Vatlaw,
Good day, sir.
and Ronan the Crusader.
Hello, hello.
So because it's Halloween and we haven't really had any good horror movies coming out recently, they're all pretty much the same. I figured let's talk about what makes a good horror movie or horror video game.
I am down. I do have one contention, though. I did see one horror movie recently that came out this year that I liked quite a lot, which was Weapons.
I have not seen Weapons yet.
I enjoyed it.
I was wondering if you were actually going to reference Sinners, because I thought that was pretty well.
But was Sinners
I
a
like
horror
Sinners
movie?
as well.
That's kind of
I thought it skated close enough to call it horror.
I mean, it has vampires, so I think it counts.
Yeah, but vampires can also be in a lot of other stuff, too. Vampires fall into action genre, romance genre, dark fantasy genre.
The atmosphere that they were building in Sinners, though, because I do remember, I actually did watch it a couple months ago. The atmosphere they were definitely building for it was horror, I would say, at least towards the latter half of the film. Obviously, the first half was definitely going for a more historical period piece with the emphasis on, of course, African-American culture. That's obviously what they were doing. Yeah. The second film, clearly they were trying to have some kind of horror element to it. So
yeah, I've heard it described as Tyler Perry's From Dusk Till Dawn, which I thought was pretty...
I was actually going to bring that up specifically. Not necessarily the Tyler Perry portion of it, but From Dusk Till Dawn, because the beginning part of that you are clearly not calling a horror movie. That's... it's even slapstick with the amount of comedy in the early portions From Dusk Till Dawn, especially, who was it? Cheech's speech outside of the bar.
Oh, yeah, where he says, what was it? It was 30 straight seconds of naming off all kinds of B-words.
We are still very early in the recording here. No sense in getting an age restriction early.
Yeah, God.
It's comedic very much, but you get to the latter half of that movie where there's literally fights to stay alive and people turning kind of mid-fight and being killed off, and it's clearly horror elements. And yes, it's kind of viewing Sinners the same way to bring it right back to that.
Yes, Sinners was a good horror movie that came out this year. Only I feel like it was really missing. What's that guy's name? It's something Nicotero. He's the guy who does all of the special effects work, and he plays Sex Machine in the movie. He's the one with his little crotch holster folds that folds open.
No, that's Tom Savini. That's Tom. Savini.
Tom Savini. Yes,
Tom Savini does a whole lot of special effects for a whole lot of horror films.
So Tom Savini is legendary for the Friday the 13th series.
Absolutely, and he's also legendary for his appearance too in Dawn of the Dead as well, being one of the members of the biker gang.
And he's like, you gotta shoot him in the head. Look, that one's a squirmer.
Not to sidetrack too far, but how much you want to bet he still has that cod piece?
He definitely still has that in his workshop.
I'm betting all the money in my bank account that I currently have, which is
now
$6.
How much do we want to bet that he still wears it? All the time.
From time to time to win bets, I would say, is I bet I have the coolest thing you've ever seen, and then he breaks that out, and it's just like, yeah, here you go.
Whenever he gets to negotiations.
Whenever he gets asked, what's your greatest accomplishment? And he's like, here, check this out.
If that guy does the convention circuit and he's not in a lazy boy recliner with normal clothes wearing that cod piece, I don't even know if I want the photo with him or anything else.
You might be cool, but you'll never be crotch gun cool.
In any other context, that would not make sense.
Except maybe, oh God, what the hell was that? I don't remember if it was a Bollywood film where the cop throws his gun up and it lands in his pants and he starts thrusting and every time he does it fires.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, God, it's the other one I thought of was American Dad, where Steve's in the video game and he's pelvic thrusting to shoot the lasers.
Yeah, I think it was based off of that.
Yeah, I remember.
What is it with Bollywood and making just batshit insane stunts?
But to say that, though, to circle back to our original topic, It made the movie memorable. Did it not?
Definitely did.
Absolutely.
See, I will say that's one thing I think you have to have with horror is a bit of that levity. Like, it can't just be tension all the way through. You have to have a release at some point.
I suppose it depends on the kind of horror film that you're trying to make. Like,
well, if you're making like a slow burn horror, like the original Halloween, then yeah. But if you're making like a quick horror that's, it's constant horror, you still need something.
No, of course. Obviously, you could build a horror film that has a little bit of levity. That's why films like, From Dusk Till Dawn work. That's why films like Shaun of the Dead work. Hell, even I think it's called Malignant. It's that one James Wan film.
Which one? He has like 4 or 5 horror movies to his name.
It's with the head on the back of their head.
So James Wan made this one film called Malignant. Yeah, there's a scene in that one where the killer is literally fighting a bunch of fucking people. Pardon my language. I know we're still early in the chat, but he fought a bunch of people in a police station, and it was like turning into some crazy, over-the-top, slapstick kung fu kind of film. Like, I'm serious. You would look it up.
It was demonstrating just how much power over the body this parasitic twin had.
Right, but
because I think the way that he explained it in somewhat was that, or at least the way Roanoke Gaming explained it, was the parasitic twin doesn't have the same like controls over the body in terms of the body's own safety mechanisms. So it can go all out with your strength and your abilities, and it doesn't have a limiter like the standard human mind does. So it can break your stuff backwards and go nuts because it doesn't have that restriction.
So it's the
which is why
throw everything into it that the muscle will allow.
It
won't strain. It'll just
strain? What is it? It's like the average human uses maybe 10% of their body's actual capabilities, and with bodybuilding and like special training, you can get up to maybe 50. Because at 100%, you will literally tear muscle from bone, which is why the only time the body allows it is during insane adrenaline surges, like women picking up cars over their children and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, that's an often attested tale that occurs.
Yeah, it's because the adrenaline overrides those limiters and says, no, fuck this. Even if our body is going to break, we're going to save our kid, and we're going to get this tree off of them.
But the point I'm obviously making is, like, it depends entirely on, like, the type of horror film one is making. You can add levity and some slapstick and some jokes into it. And then, of course, you have guys like Lars von Trier and their film Antichrist, where it's just a pure, unrelenting array of just misery and depression and nihilism of sorts like that. I haven't seen Antichrist myself. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. They often put it up there as like one of the most like disturbing films of all time, along with a bunch of other films that exist. No. I know they say that about films like Salo. They say that about films like
the house that what was it? The house that Jack built.
That's the same director.
Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, all that kind of stuff.
That one actually got banned in a ton of countries.
A Serbian film, another one that got banned as well too. But again, when I make no, Lars von Trier didn't make a Serbian film, but that's another one that got banned in a lot of different countries just because of the sheer brutal nature of it. But again, like Lars,
did he do Martyrs?
No, Martyrs was Martyrs is a French director. I'm trying to remember what the name was. I think it was Gaspar Noé. I think it was Gaspar Noé that did Martyrs. I believe that's the name.
I think Martyrs is Canadian, but Gaspar, no, that guy makes some insane movies too. Like, what's the?
Pascal. I can't pronounce this guy's name. I'm gonna butcher it. Laguerre. Pascal Laguerre. Directed Martyrs and The Tall Man.
Okay, there you go.
Gaspar Noé did Irreversible and Enter the Void and Climax.
Yes, I do remember Irreversible. That's another one as well too. But again, depending on how the director is trying to make a horror film, there's some jokes to it, and then of course you have something that's very unrelenting in its horror, something that really wants to try and give the audience a terrible experience. Let's put it that way.
They want you to kind of go through and have the terror and the dread and be stuck with it afterwards.
Well,
yes, exactly.
And so Lars von Trier did Antichrist and The House That Jack Built, but Antichrist has Willem Dafoe in it, and a couple is having sex while their kid falls out a window. It is fucking horrifying. It is so bad. But his
I was
movies are
gonna say
known for
that.
being completely like raw and gnarly. And he also did Melancholia and some other stuff. He's kind of a like the kind of director that loves sniffing his own farts. He's extremely talented, and you can tell by like the composition of his shots and stuff. But he's always like kind of pushing a philosophy, a personal philosophy of his with each one of his movies. And a lot of them, the vast majority of the population do not find agreeable, but it doesn't mean that he doesn't make excellent films. But I mean, what he's going for, or like the message that he's trying to push with them, are usually pretty far out there.
Well,
But
It's one of
yeah,
those things where it's like, I don't agree with your subject matter, but I will agree that you are a good filmmaker.
he's a provocateur is essentially what it is.
yes,
Like a lot of his films is
absolutely.
all about provocation, trying to push boundaries and trying to like bring taboos into the light. That's pretty much what
Mhm.
he does when it comes to his movies.
Yes.
And then you got movies that have extremely long-running series, like, again, Friday the 13th, where it kind of goes in between having horror and comedy. Like,
Yeah,
my favorite is
absolutely.
probably Friday the 13th Part 6, the one with Tommy Jarvis, where they bring him back by stabbing him in the heart with a giant metal pole.
I have not seen the sixth one.
I'm
But it
trying
is,
to remember
what
because
I
I was
love
gonna
is
say
there
it
is a
sounds
scene in it.
ham.
It's hilarious. It's one of those movies like, I can't believe you did this. But one of the scenes I love is near the end when Jason's finally going on his, camp rampage. There are these two kids sitting under a bed hiding, and they just look at each other and go, well, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh yeah, that scene I do remember.
Oh,
That was
Lord.
actually pretty funny. I remember watching the movie now. Yes. So actually, I watched a lot of the Friday the 13th films because they were doing a marathon of it on AMC. So I
Yeah,
figured, what the
they
heck, I'll
did
just
like
watch
they
them.
used to do marathons of horror
And
movies a few
yeah,
years ago.
the channel AMC does still do them
Okay.
every October, which is pretty cool. Um, a few weekends ago, they did it for Friday the 13th. That's how I managed to watch parts 5, parts 6, 7, 8, and even watched Jason Goes to Hell as well too. That one was probably one of my favorites, I would say, in that whole franchise. That one was pretty good. And again, to add like to the conversation of having some comedy in these horror films, there's the scene where Jason is trying to chase after, I forgot what the character's name was. She's chasing after the one lady who has the baby because the whole point of it is that he's trying to be reborn inside of the baby's body because he's transferring bodies in this film now because Jason is no longer just, a living rotting zombie. He's literally just an essence of demonic evil that is able to possess people,
I
and
think
now he
they
wants to
classify
possess
him
the
as a
woman's
revenant.
baby. Revenant, there you go. So he's going to the diner where this lady's at, and the one guy's trying to protect the lady. He's killing everybody inside of the diner, punches the diner owner's wife in the mouth, and literally the way that he punched her, her mouth just literally sucks itself back in. It's like one of those cartoonish images where like somebody's licking a lemon and then their mouth just goes inward. That's literally what her
Just
mouth
that
looks like when she
scrunched
gets
up.
punched in by Jason. Yes, scrunched up. It's hilarious as hell, dude. It's funny. But again, all this happening in a crazy horror film where you have a monstrous revenant going around killing people. But
Like, it's one that doesn't take
it's quite
itself too
entertaining.
seriously.
Well, I mean, considering the amount of films that came out for this,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I think they understood that we
And
can
then he
have
went
some
to
fun with
space.
this. Oh God, yeah, Jason X. Oh my God,
And then
I
they
don't know what to
tried
say
to
to
make
that
a
one.
I don't know if anyone even ever saw the remake they tried to make of the first one.
In 2009,
Yeah, the remake was like, oh, we're gonna try and make him like a regular serial killer again, just a normal human. And the whole reason he keeps popping up everywhere isn't because he's spiritual or super fast. He has tunnels dug all over the place.
Dig
Like,
it.
I'm
that
kind of
kind of
glad I
takes
didn't watch
away
Oh,
it
from the whole
because this
mystery
sounds
of how the killer keeps showing up. I don't need that
right.
explained. I'm expecting that because that's the kind of thing that happens in slasher films.
Ironically enough, too, the very first Friday the 13th film, it wasn't Jason himself who was the killer. It was Jason's mom.
Yeah,
Jason
I think
Yeah.
shows up
we're
at the very
long
end, so
enough
it's
time it's been out that we can say that without having to put up a spoiler warning.
Oh no!
Oh yeah, clearly.
We're spoiling the
It's only
spoilers.
been like 30 years.
40, I would probably say.
Oh my
Don't
god.
make me feel older than I am. Fuck. But no, it's one thing. I didn't necessarily want to get in necessarily to what made
Yeah,
the
1980.
great movies.
The original was
Fuck.
1980, and then the second
Jesus.
movie was 1981.
But yeah, like right now in horror movies, there's this huge dependence on we're going to make everything really quiet, and then we're going to turn the volume up really loud, and we're going to call that a jump scare.
Oh
And
yeah, that's
there's
why I can't
enormous
stand most of the modern horrors.
There's enormous dependence on that now. And
Yeah,
there's a lack
yeah.
of like storytelling and even proper build. Even the fake jump scare has gone away.
Yeah,
They-
I mean, at this point,
they-
people are getting immune to it too.
They don't seem to. A lot of filmmakers feel as though that they kind of have to rush towards the scares. I guess the reason for that being is they don't feel that they can trust the audience in relying on a buildup of tension and dread. For me, what I would say, one of the things that does make a horror film great has to be that buildup of tension and dread. Like you can have a jump scare and that could be the payoff, but you need to actually build the setup and you need to build the atmosphere and have the audience feel like something bad and terrible is really being built up to this before the payoff finally comes. That's what I think is something that's kind of missing nowadays. They try and rush to the jump scares nowadays.
Or they make everything like a CGI fest, and it just looks horrible.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
they don't pay for the good CGI either because it's a horror movie and the idea is keep the budget down. But the other
Yep.
part, they've started building horror movies like they're freaking roller coasters. If we let it build for more than 3 minutes, the audience is going to get bored and wander off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that's, like, I will say again, like, you look at stuff that's made by lower budget directors, like where James Wan and Levy started with the first Saw movie. That was undoubtedly a horror film. That was a very tense building up film. It was mostly just two
absolutely.
guys stuck in a room.
Oh God!
Mm.
The
Actually-
part that always gets me is Carrie Ells grabbing the freaking hacksaw there, and the phone's ringing, and he doesn't know it's the people. Hey, we're okay. Don't do it.
Yeah, that. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
well,
And then
the only thing he hears is the gunshot, and then he's like, okay, fuck it, they're already
Right.
dead. I'm going to make sure this asshole doesn't get away.
It is quite interesting you mentioned Saw though. Now that we're kind of discussing that, because I think something that modern films, at least during this time period between like 2000, I think when did the first Saw film came out? Like 2003,
2003, I think?
2000.
Yeah.
It was around 2003 because the first time I saw it, I was actually on deployment. And
Ah,
I didn't
okay.
I was in high school.
2004.
So
2004.
I was going to
Okay.
say, yeah, that's
Saw 1 was 2004. Saw .5 was 2003.
So around this time, and then a little bit further into maybe the mid 2010s, you started to see a lot of films heavily rely on what people would basically just call torture porn, like
Yeah.
just excessive
Yeah.
amounts of gore, just the gratuitous amounts of violence. Now,
And it didn't lead up to anything. It was just violence and gore for the sake of violence and gore.
Now, I'll say this. Me personally, I happen to be a gorehound myself. I love watching films that have a lot of this crazy violence. Like, okay, here's one good example. Peter Jackson's Brain Dead. You know,
Oh,
before he made Lord of the
fantastic
Rings,
movie.
right? Peter
That is a
Jackson's
great
Brain Dead.
movie.
Just
A lot of people
full
don't even know
on-
Peter Jackson did that one.
I know that's
Yeah.
the most hilarious
Everyone's
thing
like,
about it.
oh,
But yes,
he must have started with Lord of the Rings. No, he did
No,
a lot of
he
really insane movies before
had,
that.
Yeah,
Oh,
had a little
yes.
bit of stuff overshadowing his career.
oh, yeah. But that film is just like full on crazy over the top zombie violence, some horror elements in it. And then, of
Yeah,
course,
just-
don't get me started on like
He
when the main
literally
character
takes
comes
a
in,
lawnmower and runs into a bunch of zombies with
Yes.
it.
has the
Oh, that's-
lawnmower, party's over, just chops a bunch of zombies up in there, dude. And then, of course, don't even get me started on his mom at the end of the film,
And she
who's
gets
basically
big.
the final boss.
Yeah.
Big, ugly, breasts hanging out. It's just
Yeah.
gross and everything. But that was Peter Jackson right there. That was all Peter Jackson. He wanted to do that. And so, yes, gore has obviously existed throughout, the history of horror. We've seen it. But then when
But it has
films
to be
like
done
Saw
it has to be
and
done in a way
Hostel,
that works with the film.
yes,
But
when films like Saw and Hostel started coming out, it felt less like they were trying to use it for the film and just felt more like they wanted it to shock the audience.
Well, the later ones, yes. The
Ultimately.
first entry of both of those is definitely more for building up the tension.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but before
right.
we get too far away from Peter Jackson, he did sneak that shit into Lord of the Rings, though. If you look at Two Towers, where it was the two hobbits essentially got eaten by the fucking trees in the forest, he snuck it in there, and he snuck a lot of gore into basically any scene that involved orcs dying. So he did sneak in those elements. Granted, there's only so much he could do
for the
horror-wise with Lord of the
PG-13.
Rings, but it did
Right,
exist
right.
there.
Those
So
kids ain't orcs. They ain't
I
green
mean,
enough to be orcs.
I find it funny that you brought up that in the early 2000s, especially with American filmmaking, that they started to do torture porn with some of these movies because the French, it was called New French Extremity,
yes,
late
that's
90s into the
mhm.
early 2000s. Yeah, the French had some really, really insane horror
Well,
movies.
again, we mentioned two examples of that wave of films before. We mentioned Martyrs and
Yeah.
Irreversible. Those two happen
hmm
to be part of that whole movement of French filmmaking, the new French extremity. Yes, they
Wasn't High
made
Tension also
all
part of that?
Yes,
yes.
high tension was also part of that a little bit later, but yes, it's still part of the same thing. It's just, from what I understand, New French Extremity was just insane graphic depictions of sexual content, violence, like even things like sexual assault and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
it
Which,
was their
I
version of
mean,
Grindhouse.
yes,
Yes,
well,
basically.
yes, only with kind of a French twist to it because, again, different cultures and how they handle those things, you'll see it reflected in their movies. Like, for instance, in a lot of the Asian cultures, there is not a taboo on hitting women like there is in American films and
Hmm.
modern films. Whereas if you want to see that in American films, you're going to have to go back like towards the 70s and 60s, and then you would see a lot more of that than there is in modern day. But in like modern Korean movies and stuff, there is a lot, I shouldn't say a lot of that, but in the movies where they depict such things, also violence towards children and stuff like
Oh
that,
yeah,
or
you want
minor.
that in American films. You want to
Right.
go back to like the 70s and 80s.
Exactly.
And
And then
even
so,
then, it's kind of restrained.
well, with the new French extremity, what they were going for was kind of, it was this guy releases a film and then they try to, was a little bit of one-upsmanship going on, kind of like with 80s action movies, between like Stallone and Arnold. It's like, okay, I killed this many guys in this movie, now I need to kill more guys in the next movie. But this was the horror version, so there's a lot of examples of those, and those are actually some of my favorite horror movies, just because you're not going to see anything like those in America. I'm trying to remember the one. I have it on my Amazon account. It is Frontiers. It's during the French riots. A group of people are trying to hide out outside of town, and then they run into a clan of neo Nazis, of course, that own a motel. And there's some just one of the things in this movie that got me above all, because we're talking about things that make horror films effective. To me, it's like something that's gross, like something that makes me like extremely uncomfortable with how gross it is. And there's lots of that. And like we were bringing up the Peter Jackson movie earlier, and there's like things with like zits and some other gross stuff in that. In this movie in particular, they put these people in a pig pen and they have to dig out, and it is just absolutely filthy. And they're covered in the nasty stuff from this pig pen for the rest of the movie. And then this girl is completely like shaking and then has shit all over her face and stuff, and then kisses her guy on the mouth, and then they're screaming and spits getting all over their face. And you're just like, and for me, it's like that is so gross. Like there is just something about like the uncleanliness of that you just don't see, because most actors and actresses and in American films, it seems like, do not want things like, it's one thing for them to get showered in blood and then the rain comes or whatever and cleans them off, or it's at the very end of the movie. This is in near like at the 20-minute mark all the way to like the end, an hour and 40 minutes later, completely covered in nasty shit. And it's just like the dedication of showing something like that, that's like one of the things in this new French Extremity that really like stuck with me as far as being an effective horror film, because I was just consistently grossed out by different things like that. And then of course like the sheer amount of bloodshed, or as another example in this movie Frontiers, one of the Nazis puts a guy down for trying to escape, and he takes bolt cutters to his Achilles tendon. And while he's doing it, not only is he like singing, and as he's moving the bolt cutters back and forth, and they're showing the guy writhing, but he's explaining to them that this is what they used to do to slaves that would run away, so that they couldn't run away anymore, because you can walk with your Achilles tendon cut, but you can't run, sort of thing. So it's just like it's layers upon layers of the horror. It's not just that it's showing a guy getting brutally cut. It's not just that it's this horrific situation and his girlfriend's having to watch, and that it's happening in a pig pen against his will. He's also giving context that he's done this before, because the guy's an ex-Nazi, and he's done it to people, and it actually comes from a long tradition of doing this in like a slave context. So it's just layers upon layers of stuff, which I found very compelling when it comes to like that level of horror, because it's just like, holy crap, how many layers can you add to this to make this more horrifying than what it is, than just showing a guy getting clipped, which is awful in of itself.
Yeah, there's got to be like something like a layering effect that really makes an effective horror really come through.
That movie will never get made as long as unions exist.
Well, not in America.
Well, actually, I mean, it could be made in America, but I think we're looking in the wrong place. I think we're looking too much into Hollywood to see if it gets made.
It would be made by independents.
Reality is, yes,
there's
that's
no
basically
way
what I
any
was trying to get to.
people would be involved in that movie. It would have to be completely independent funding, independent actors, independent writers, because HR
absolutely
would be all over that shit, and all the coordinators they got, the intimacy coordinators and everything else, which also goes into the fact of what's killing horror right now is, no, we don't want it to be too scary. The fucking people rubbing their hands together who have freaking pointless made up jobs in Hollywood, who are still taking paychecks there. That's part of what's ruining it. But going over that scene in details, like, yeah, that's horrific being described to, letting alone seeing it on screen. And half of me's thinking, yeah, there's no way in hell they're letting that shit even get past a script.
Like, I think another good example of that is the difference between Five Nights at Freddy's and Willy's Wonderland. Not only are they different genres, but they're the same basic premise of being trapped in a restaurant with animatronics that want to kill you. One is a horror film, one is a comedy, action, slight horror film. But it's like, they could have done so much more with Five Nights at Freddy's to make it genuinely terrifying, even keeping it at PG-13.
Shoot, I got two examples from the same universe. Granted, they're cartoons. I will classify it with that. You look at Scooby-Doo, and then you look at Velma.
Oh, God.
The shows.
Oh, jeez.
We don't even... Velma never happened.
Sorry to bring the mood down.
Velma never happened. If you think you have seen that series, go to your local SCP Foundation site and ask for amnesic treatment. Because you have experienced a cognitohazardous effect.
No, my favorite part of the Velma series was watching the Disparu videos on them.
Oh, God, yeah. Disparu and Elvis, both tearing those apart, were great.
As excited as he got when Velma was tied to a pyre and they were about to light it.
Well, I think that this is an interesting example of something which, again, like we're saying, that Americans wouldn't make this movie. So there's a French movie called Inside, and what this movie is about is a woman. While she's pregnant, she gets, and this is in the very beginning, you'll see this in the trailer, this isn't spoiling anything, she gets in a car crash with her husband, and her husband dies. Then she's living by herself for like the last 4 months of her pregnancy, and a woman shows up, and while she's asleep, breaks into her house to try to, and this one was like 9 months pregnant, to cut open her stomach and steal her baby. And the premise of itself is horrifying. This setup for it is pretty intriguing. And then when she's like sneaking in there and she's pulling her shirt down and exposing her big belly bump, and then she pulls a big wooden dowel out of her hair and then stabs her right in the belly button with it, and that's how she wakes up. It's horrifying. That movie was inspired by a true story that happened in Texas and America. A woman was selling baby clothes online through like Craigslist, and because she was this psychopath that wanted a baby, and then so she lured in a pregnant woman, Mexican woman in Texas, to try to kill her and get her baby. And that's exactly what she did. She killed her and cut her baby out of her, and then showed up and said that she had the baby prematurely to the hospital so that they could save the baby. It's a fucking insane story, but it really happened in real life. But again, it's not something that they would make in America, but they would in a place like France or in other places where when it comes to films or things like that, they have, they're a bit more liberal when it comes to those sorts of things, those sorts of subjects. They're just willing to actually tread there. And I don't know if it's necessarily because there's directors there who'd be willing to like write and make that story, or that they have access to actors and actresses, or that there's a different kind of unions there, or if it's that there's an appetite for it in foreign audiences.
There's
I'm not
nothing else
exactly
in
sure.
France.
Well, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but or if it's just because they're smaller film industries compared to something like Hollywood, so they don't have to worry about like we don't have to worry about making so much money back, and then so because they make a lot more smaller budget films over there, which is a big problem in Hollywood, is because all of their budgets get completely blown out for stuff unless
And we
it's
don't
like
even
a
know what
small
most of those
independent
budgets are.
film. Well, it's wasted on
True.
catering and a bunch of other bullshit, but my point is that if you are looking for different kinds of these, if you feel like you're not really getting that, if you have an itch that's not really getting scratched with American horror films, if you're willing to read subtitles, there is a plethora of them that are actually made by talented directors who actually have a story that they want to tell. And to bring it back full circle, that's why I'm really excited about Zach Krieger, the guy who made the movie Weapons, is because not only did he write it, and it's a very personal story, and I will not do any spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen it, especially because it's fairly new. The guy wrote it and directed it himself, and it has an awesome cast, a very interesting thing to kind of like hook you in on, like all these kids disappear at 2:17 in the morning. It's a classroom full of kids. And you're like, oh, what is this? Like, what is like the setup for it's fantastic. Well, he did another movie because Weapons is actually his second movie. The first movie he did was Barbarian. I'm not sure if anybody here has
I
seen
have
that.
heard of that, yes.
I liked it, and
It was Foundflix. The channel Foundflix actually did a explanation of it.
yeah, it's a fantastic movie. I really enjoyed that one too because it's a girl is in Detroit, shows up at an Airbnb that's supposed to be booked out for her, but there's actually somebody already in it. And then so it's like, do you continue to go into the Airbnb with this guy? Seems fairly normal, but you don't have another place to go at the time, and you really have to be here because it's for a job interview. And of course, they pick Bill Skarsgård, and this is him coming right off of doing It, where he played Pennywise. So then it leads into the audience already going like, dude, this guy always plays a creeper. What's going to happen here, sort of thing. So in my opinion, he's a very talented director because in both films, and this isn't a spoiler, how they are broken up is a very non-traditional format. In Weapons, it's told from six characters' points of view. So it tells one person's story up until a point, and then jumps to another tertiary character, and then tells their part of that story up until a point. And it kind of does a little bit of jumping around, but it's not confusing, and they lead really well into each other. Well, in Barbarian in particular, they do it 3 times, whereas in Weapons they do it 6. They're showing one character's point of view, and then it just hard cuts like right when it gets to like a very horrific moment to a scene that is completely detached. Like there is a very gnarly horror scene where somebody gets their face smashed against a wall, and then it immediately cuts to a guy driving on the highway singing a song. And you're like, what the hell was that? And it's jarring, and not going from something peaceful to something horrific. It's going from something horrific to something peaceful. And then so it's jarring in a completely different way. And I found that the director, that's kind of like his little motif that he's doing in his movies. Um, I found them to be both excellently executed in both films so far. And apparently, the next film that he's going to do is a Resident Evil movie that is set in the main line of the series. So I'm talking movies and now the video games. It's set in the mainline story of Resident Evil, I believe in Raccoon City, but it will have none of the main characters from the main series, and it'll be a completely new story. So it'll probably be something along the lines of like Resident Evil Outbreak, where you're taking a bunch of these like tertiary characters and to complete a story that's going on in the middle of like Raccoon City or something like that. He hasn't exactly explained what he's doing, but that apparently he has the rights to that, and that's going to be his next project, is the next Resident Evil movie. Hopefully, something better than the last couple Resident Evil movies.
So, as a big Resident Evil fan myself, who's played a good number of the games and has also watched a lot of the films, the Paul W.S. Anderson films,
which are fun, in my opinion.
They're no, like yeah, they are pretty fun. Obviously, they stray very far away from the games, but
yes.
I think I think that kind of gives him more of an excuse. Really, it's like I'm kind of doing my own thing with the series. I don't need to worry about what the games say.
No, of course. But the thing that I was trying to say is that like the first game in and of itself, if you ask me, the first game is a perfect representation of a horror film. I honestly think you could adapt the first game into a film almost one to one, because I know there are a few things you may have to change.
I don't think the film would have as much backtracking.
Would have to be taken. No, obviously not. Or you know what? Maybe there could be. Maybe there could be. They would probably just condense the backtracking, because obviously the whole game takes place in the Spencer Mansion. You're going to be going back and forth to a lot of places. But anyways,
will we also have the corny dialogue?
Well,
will we have kind of Jill? You are master of lock and key.
Man, you almost turned into a Jill sandwich there.
Thank you, Barry.
But see, with that, you could actually make almost like a 90s period film with it. That's what I think. You could make a 90s period horror film with it. And that's what I'm trying to ask for. Like,
I mean, they kind of did with the very beginning of the first Resident Evil film. It kind of had that. Like, you had the mansion and the secret lab, but then it went way off balance.
The vibe was almost there. Yeah, you could almost sense it.
Like, if they had stayed in the mansion as, like, you get locked in by something outside that the SWAT team that breaks in, it's like, we don't know what those things were. We're not going back out there because we already lost a team. But we're going to stay here and wait for rescue.
Right, but the thing with the first film is they kind of condensed Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2 into like one thing. Well, the latter half of Resident Evil 2, where you go into like the underground facility, but instead of it being called the Nest facility, they call it the Hive. It's almost the same thing. But okay, the thing I'm trying to say is Zach Kreger. So he made weapons. Yep. Everybody loves weapons. I hear good things about weapons as well in terms of horror. I want to trust that he knows what he's doing when it comes to adapting a Resident Evil film. I really hope that he does know what he's doing. I think he himself has said that he is a fan of the franchise. Yes. So he wants to like adapt it and do as best as he can. When I hear, however, that he's trying to do something new and trying to do his own thing, the only sentiments I'm getting are Paul W.S. Anderson or Welcome to Raccoon City, and that was.
See,
oh boy,
how one would come to that conclusion. That from the interview that I read was he's like, look, I really like. He said that he was a fan of the source material, but he said that he did not want to adapt one of the games and turn it like strictly into a movie. And then so he's like, I like the setting. I'm a fan of the genre. I'm a fan of the games. I'm a fan of the zombies and how everything works. But I want to tell an original story in that setting. So to me, it's like I can read that as you do, but I am choosing to go, okay, maybe he will go like how for instance, the Outbreak games, where I said as an original example, those were, I mean, we already had Resident Evil 2 and 3 that were set in the middle of Raccoon City during the outbreak. But then out of nowhere, we get the Outbreak games, and they're also set during those, like that same time period, just in a different part of the city. So it's making me wonder if he will take something, and I mean, he might not have like Leon S. Kennedy or Chris Redfield or somebody like that, like these main characters in the film, but it doesn't mean that he couldn't be making references to stars or the RPD, or that
Yeah,
characters
you can
couldn't
make
drive
like
by.
references to what's going on in the setting. Like, hey, I
Exactly.
heard that there's this rookie cop who just showed up. I feel real bad for him showing up on this day.
Or like they
Like,
could
you don't
see the
even need to
helicopter
mention Leon. You
crash.
just need to say that,
Yeah.
oh, I heard there's this new cop coming into town from my friend at the police department. I sure hope he doesn't come in for today.
Or
Yeah,
show people
a
getting
passing reference
eaten.
of sorts, right?
Yeah, or like showing people getting eaten in the woods outside the Spencer mansion and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah,
I
because there
think
was
that
that
there's
whole thing
lots
in the
of
first
different.
game with the news articles you find where it's like there's some kind of weird murder cult near the mansion, and people keep showing up getting mauled.
Yeah,
And
and
they
I
never
think that
mention
there's.
zombies because it's not known at the time. It's just, hey, these people keep disappearing, and when we find them, it looks like they've been eaten.
Well, what's kind of crazy to me is like now with the new Resident Evil 9 movie that or game that's coming out, it's the first time that we've been back to the Raccoon City since the Outbreak games, which I'm just like, that's kind of crazy if you think about it, because it was such a big part of the original game series that you would have thought now in retrospect, man, I can't believe that they haven't done anything with that. And then the reveal of this is what Raccoon City looks like after the thermobaric bomb went off. Oh, interesting, and we're going to return. It's making me wonder, well, is there not way more stories that could be told? Is there not more interesting things that could be happening? Like, I always loved the introductory or the introduction cutscene in Resident Evil 3 showing the cops, shooting the zombies out on the street. And I felt like I got even more of that in the Outbreak games. It's making me go, man, maybe there's potential here of some other new and interesting characters that could be in these set pieces or around these set pieces, and give more of that, like flesh out more of what was going on in the city. And then so I'm like, it's a double-edged sword. It can cut both ways. It could just be like, wow, you really
It,
took this game franchise and now you're trying to tell a personal story that has absolutely nothing to do with it, but you're tacking on the Resident Evil name for whatever reason.
Oh, you mean like they did for
Or,
Silent Hill?
it's right.
yeah.
So okay, so if the aim of like Zach Cregger's Resident Evil film is something very much akin to Outbreak, then I wouldn't have a problem with that because
Mhm.
I myself did play the Outbreak games, both File 1 and File 2. I absolutely
Very
enjoyed
nice.
the hell out of them. They were really fun games. Um, so if he is trying to make some sort of, I guess you could say, not an anthology film for it, but more like just like a side story film, let's put it
Mhm.
that way, where we're following different characters through this, these hellish few nights at Raccoon City. I can definitely get behind that. That should be really entertaining, actually.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
like what
hoping
I'd
for.
like is the way that, like you said, it's a double-edged sword because you can have a brand new character and they don't have the baggage attached to them like any of the game characters
Yeah,
do.
yeah, like the
But at the same
expectations
time,
that.
you're also kind of bringing in a brand new person that you're not really sure if anyone's actually going to like.
Well, it,
Hmm.
it, it
Like, do we
avoids the
want
problem.
to follow this character through the city and doing all this stuff, or like, is this just one of those things where it's like, oh, it's just another random person with nothing
Yeah,
special?
yeah.
Like,
There
why
are
should
two
I care about
potential.
this other character? I have no attachment to them outside of the name of the game being in the movie.
Yeah, two potential issues, and one, it's the game aspect as you're exploring. The other, you are right to see the red flags of what he's trying to do outside the main story of the game and kind of creating his own. But, however, he's more of the Henry Cavill approach to this, to where he's a nerd and into it. So it's one of those, okay, we'll give him rope. It might be rope that we hang ourselves with, but
Yes.
we'll give him rope nonetheless because he's talking the right talk for this. The
Hmm.
other aspect, though, and it's what Tobias was getting into, it's coming into the canonical expectations of he's trying to create his own. He has his own vision, has his own project, but will he get us to care about it? Is the other aspect of that.
Right.
Yeah, that's always a problem with, well, any movie, not even just horror franchises. Because you have the franchises where, like, everyone loves the villain. Like, you couldn't have a Friday the 13th movie besides the first one and not have Jason.
Well, I think that
like, they tried that even with Halloween. With Halloween 1 and 2 had Michael Myers, and then 3 was a completely different story.
I think
and
that
everyone was like, no, we have
being...
to bring back Michael Myers. Like, okay, and the Halloween went from there, even though 3 was actually really good.
Well, I think that with this being his third movie, and the fact that his first two movies got a lot of notoriety, especially the second one, that he's going to build off of that momentum, and that people go kind of like how Jordan Peele did with, he made Get Out, and then he started, and then people are like, wow, this guy's like, he's really good at doing horror. And ironically enough, he started out in comedy, just like Zach Krieger
Key
did.
and Peele.
Yeah, and Zach Krieger was in The Whitest Kids You Know. And then so I think that he might carry that momentum, and that enough people go, oh, this is the guy who wrote and directed Weapons. I'm really interested to see what his next project is. It's interesting that he's not doing a totally unique IP like he has with his last two, because it would give him more creative freedom, and the fact that he's actually taking something from like an original IP and going, okay, I want to make this my own. I think that like we said earlier, could be a double-edged sword. That you have the expectations of, okay, well, if this is Resident Evil, then I'm going to be expecting a certain type of zombies in it. I'm going to be expecting that there might be some creatures, secret labs, a big explosion of a facility at the end, because that's what you would expect in the games. But as far as like the movies or like the TV shows that have come out for it, they've been totally scattershot. So I think as far as like the quality, I think no matter what, this will probably be just a step above, because it'll have a higher budget and it'll have way more people interested in it because of who is directing it and who is writing it. I think it'll probably be a step above in quality, even if it's like, why the hell is this a Resident Evil story? Like, this could probably be anything. Like, this could have just been whatever. I don't know why he tacked on that IP. I think is probably the worst case scenario. But I mean, I'm probably just looking too much at the silver lining of this. That it could be a lot better than what it actually could end up being. But I mean, I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. Have been for forever. I remember I have literally every single mainline entry and a bunch of the offshoots of the games. I don't want to see it.
You even have Resident Evil Survivor?
No, I don't. I don't have that one, or Dead Aim. I don't have every single one, but or the
two
Resident
Chronicles
Evil
for the Wii.
No, how about the Game Boy Color, Resident Evil Gaiden, man?
Wait, Red, don't tell me you don't have Resident Evil Umbrella Corps.
Oh, God.
Crappy PvP third-person shooter. Oh, my God.
I will say that game was fun when it came out. When it came out, it was fun for a while.
I heard people kind of liked it. Like,
I kind of enjoyed it, but at the same time, it's like this. It was fun, but it's like, this isn't really a Resident Evil kind of thing. Like, if this was like some other side thing, it would be great. Like, you don't need the Resident Evil name attached to this.
See, people thought that 6 was kind of where it just started going downhill. They completely overlooked games like Raccoon City Operations, which, me personally, I enjoyed it, but yeah, that kind of strayed pretty far in terms of like a feel for Resident Evil.
As far as I recall, Red, just when that one came out, didn't Game Freak have it for like one night, beat the entire thing, and then returned it?
And returned it like the next day?
It's like, I've already done everything this game has to offer in under 8 hours.
Yep, and he was like, I'm good. That is so funny that you bring that up. Yeah, that is. I remember when that came out, and that was the one time that I got to play it, because he was like, "Yep, I've had my fill of this," and I was like, "Okay, cool, I'll check it out." And I was like, "This is not what I was expecting," and then he returned it the next day, and I didn't bat an eye.
But now, related to if it's an original project that he's like weaving into Resident Evil or not, I'm going to throw a reference which, Tobias, your audience should be old enough to get it. It might be a little old for Ronan, but I believe at least you and Red will get it. The equivalency here of Babylon 5 and Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
Because the original Deep Space Nine was supposedly going to be like Babylon 5. And something to do with the rights and the writing and idea stealing. But I will say both those shows, I love them both. I love them both dearly. Clearly independent properties, but I can watch Babylon 5 and see, yeah, I could see where they were going with this and trying to turn it into Star Trek. I can see that, but I can also see it as the independent property it became. The other issue with that is these writers are no longer the writers we had in the early 90s.
Oh,
that
talented?
is kind of a problem. Yeah. Saying that, this director, though, I mean, his batting average is 1,000 right now, which granted, it's 2 for 2.
Yeah.
Not hard to keep that streak going.
No, that is pretty hard to do nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah,
especially
there's a lot of
with
one-hit wonders.
Yeah, but it's coming off onto a property which is going to have, well, I don't want to say Resident Evil movies will have that much of an expectation because it's not exactly the highest bar to clear.
No, not the real ones anyway. If you watch the CG ones, they're a completely different beast.
Yeah.
No, that's actually true.
You will have Resident Evil expectations because people will want it to be of a certain quality, which Red described what you might be expecting in there. And something tells me if it's not what people are expecting or it's not close to what people are expecting, that is not a good sign.
Yeah.
But if this guy is as invested in it as he seems, he should be able to nail that.
Yeah, I just want to see Chris Redfield smuggling watermelons in his biceps. That's all I want to see. And him punching rocks. That's all I punch the boulder, Chris. Come on.
Oh,
speaking of having names attached to movies, does anyone remember the movie House of Wax? And what its tagline was during its advertising? Because it was a horror movie that had Paris Hilton in it. It was See Paris Die.
I did not remember that. I remember she's in it.
I'm guessing that sold tickets because
definitely.
She was attractive, but she was viewed as annoying at the height of her power.
But this wasn't at the height of her power. This was still during like the beginnings of her rise.
What was this before or after? Like
after the adult tape.
I wasn't going to say that.
It's after that. So I think that was part of why they went with that tagline.
But the Real Jobs one, where basically they got real jobs and they would quit halfway through the episodes.
Yeah, her and that was Lionel Richie's daughter.
I was wanting to say Nicole Richie, but it might not be Nicole.
I think it is Nicole Richie. I think you're right. I just remember being Lionel Richie's daughter.
That was about the height, and they were just viewed as like, okay, yeah, they're pretty, they're beautiful, they're fucking annoying.
Yeah, it was before that.
I remember them asking about Walmart. They're like, "What is this? Do they sell walls here?" I remember them advertising that on Fox when I was a kid when that show came out.
Well, here's the question: is even for like something like that, were they being that stupid, like unironically that stupid, or was it just because this was the scripting for it for them to be this stupid?
I don't think she's as dumb as appears because she runs actually a bunch of successful businesses. Then again, her father is the guy who did Hilton Hotels.
I was going to say, is that actually she herself running those businesses, or is it her father or family that's helping?
I think you have to have some level of business acumen to be able to survive in those industries. I mean, I'm sure that she has gotten a lot of help.
Just the fact that the businesses are still going is more like she has to have some kind of respect for that.
Yeah. Considering the prestige and cost to actually stay in Hilton hotels and what they would do, I would believe that she would end up being that rich to where she would not know what a Walmart is. Now, saying that, the daughter of Lionel Richie, though, granted, very famous, probably pretty rich. I'm not quite thinking that rich, though.
No, definitely
not. What do they call it? Nouveau rich.
Yeah. I mean, that's Lionel Richie rich versus Hilton Rich. Hello.
I almost want to Google the net worth, and I'm expecting frickin' the Hiltons to start with a B.
Yeah,
and Lionel Richie, it'll start with an M. It might be 3 digits M, but I don't think he's hitting the billions.
Oh my gosh.
8
So,
9-figure
It's richer
numbers.
than anyone here is ever going to see. So, I mean,
Oh,
there's
definitely.
that. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
You have beat our asses at that.
so okay, I have
At
a
the
quick
same time, was
question.
it worth it?
Um, so this is a hard right turn from the topic that we're currently on, but it goes back to horror movies. Has anybody seen the two films, both titled the exact same, have the exact same name, both directed by the same person, and were done shot for shot, called Funny Games?
No.
You,
So I have not seen Funny Games myself, but I have watched a whole lot of people go in depth
Yeah,
discussing
I've seen the same
both
thing.
versions of Funny Games, and
yeah,
this is, I don't know,
I
this
prefer
is a
the German
film.
one, but yeah.
This is a film that for me, it doesn't. Okay, so I understand the intent of what the filmmaker is trying to go for, but me personally, all I can say is I'm not impressed. I'm not really entertained by what you're trying to do. And I know you're not trying to entertain me. You just want to try and jab at my face and be like, look at you enjoying all these, disgusting, wretched films and seeing all these people die. I bet you feel real shitty about yourself. It's like, I come here to the movies to be entertained, not to be lectured by a fucking liberal. Okay. Just
I feel,
entertain me, clown. That's what I
I,
want.
I feel
But
you
but
there.
but I understand too that like obviously the film like these two films were designed specifically to try and challenge audiences' expectations and to
Hmm.
challenge audiences' comfort zone. And I mean, to be real, they did a good job with it considering a lot of the insanity that does occur in Funny Games. So,
Yeah, and it's not as graphic as a lot of the other movies. And the reason why I think it truly stands out is because the same director remade it shot for shot 10 years later. And then so he got the exact same chance to make his movie, and he did the exact same thing over again. Only he had, a Hollywood cast and a slightly larger budget. I watched
mhm.
both of them, and I prefer the original, just because I like the acting in it a bit more. Not that the Americans weren't as talented or anything. I just thought for what it was, to actually have larger names. I believe it was Tim Roth and Naomi Watts. I felt that to
Yes.
be like a little distracting. Not that they weren't fantastic in it or aren't talented or that I don't like both of those actors. But I actually liked the original 1997 one more. And it was actually in particular because of the villains. And there is a hard turn in the movie where and I don't believe, because this is from 1997, I hope this doesn't ruin anything, where the film actually rewinds itself,
Yes.
and then it plays a shot out again, and with things happening slightly differently, and there is some commentary on that. But yes, it's like the Lars von Trier effect, where it's like, okay, I don't come here to these movies to hear your weird ass point of view or whatever it is that you're trying to do. Like, I get it, you're a director, you're allowed to do whatever you want with your own movie, but I'm also allowed to not like it. But I found those two movies interesting because of the fact that a guy remade his own film and liked it enough that he did it shot for shot. And I was just kind of curious what your guys is, because it is pretty nihilistic, the movie, the ending of it. Again, spoiler alert for anybody who doesn't want to know. They murder this three-member family, and then they get away with it. I mean, they
Yep.
just dumped the chick over in the boat at the very end of the movie after they killed her boy and her husband, and they just
Mhm.
dump her and then keep going, and then they show the two killers going up to another house, and they're gonna do it again.
If
And
that's
there's
not enough too, the way they end the film, like you have the killers actually looking at the camera, looking
hmm
directly at the audience, basically
yeah,
like just acknowledging, "Oh yeah, we know what we're doing. We're gonna keep doing it."
yeah, and
There were
breaking the
two
fourth
movies that
wall.
actually did that kind of thing. If either of you
hmm
remember the movie Wreck or the American version Quarantine, they are the
Ye-
exact same movie until the very end.
And I have not seen either of those films, but I heard
Wreck
good
is
things.
amazing,
I have
but the
seen
American version
Quarantine.
is
I
the
should
same
sit
up
down and
until
watch
a
Wreck, but
specific point. And the movie's been out for a long time. So, I mean, Wreck has like 4 or 5 sequels at this point.
yeah, I've
Quarantine
heard
just
that.
had the
That's
one sequel
pretty
that nobody
big.
liked. But the difference between the two is their explanation for the zombies.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
that's
In
the
the
one thing I
Spanish version,
wouldn't.
which is Rec, it's a demonic plague, essentially.
Yes,
It's
that's
all
what
being
happens.
spread by this one person who it's like a regular infection. It spreads out from them being patient zero, and everyone else getting infected by it.
So
It
what's the
was
American
an
version?
old.
The American
The
version
American
is
ver-
it's a doomsday cult virus,
That's basically what it is. Yeah, they kind of
and then
take
they
the
completely abandoned
religious
that for the second film.
implications out of it in the American version.
Yeah, they take
For
all the
what reason, I
religion
don't
out,
know
all the
why, but
spirituality out.
mhm.
But I will
Right.
say, Rec and Rec 2 are the best because they're the same night, but from two different perspectives, and they run into each other.
Oh,
Because
that's
the
cool. I
first
love it when
movie
movies do that.
is an amateur reporter and her cameraman going along on a fire thing, like just like those ride-alongs for police and firefighters. They're doing that kind of thing, and they get called into a building that is under quarantine, which is why the American version is called Quarantine. But they get in, and then they're locked down by the military police because the virus that they just discovered, this is where this virus originated. We're locking it down, and we're sending in a special team. And the second film follows the helmet cameras of the second team that's sent in to secure the original patient zero.
Oh, interesting.
So the first one is this amateur reporter and her cameraman who are documenting this whole thing and going up through it and just kind of following what's going on, trying to figure it out. And the second team is all from the perspective of these SWAT guys who are sent in to try and get control of the situation, and then they find out that the guy who's been assigned to them as he's like a government of health kind of guy, like a Ministry of Health kind of thing. And then he reveals that nobody can get out of this building until I say so. And this is why, because my mission is to secure patient zero and find a way to stop this. The church has authorized me to do this.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
Just to kind of. Sorry, Red. Just real quick, just to kind of bring it back quickly to funny games here, actually, because I was reading through the Wikipedia article again, just not so much about the plot, but more so about like the development and sort of the themes that Michael Haneke wanted to sort of discuss with this film. What was it that it said here? He said, yeah, so this is what it was, because I remember a lot of video essay people kind of talked about this one thing. Haneke himself said that Funny Games wasn't intended to be a horror film, but he wanted to deliver a message about violence in the media by making an incredibly violent but otherwise pointless film. So, just a quick shill for like another channel. Yesterday I was on the For the Homies podcast. We were doing matinee with the homies. We were discussing disaster films. All different kinds of disaster films, like Day After Tomorrow, 2012, Greenland, Geostorm, all those kinds of films, basically, where you see humankind basically come face to face with natural disasters or acts of God that could nearly wipe them all out. But ultimately, a lot of these films do have these more positive endings where, a whole lot of people die, but our main characters and a good number of humans do ultimately manage to survive the chaos and manage to prevail. One of the things that I like most when it comes to films, and this might sound corny and it might sound cliche and cheesy, one of the things I like the most about films is going to be a happy ending, mainly for two reasons. One, if I wanted an unhappy, terrible, nihilistic ending, I'd go and watch the news, especially nowadays with the way our world's turning more and more.
There's a reason we call it doom scrolling.
Exactly. But the other thing, too, is I do very much like the kind of storytelling where you can put your characters through all kinds of hell, but so long as you're able to at least bring a little bit of levity to it and actually give them an ending that they have more than earned, then all that hell that they went through, I feel isn't pointless or meaningless.
So I have one. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Okay, so I'll just finish my point real quickly. So then when you have somebody like Michael Haneke make a film like Funny Games to sort of deliberately be an antithesis to that kind of mindset, to me, it feels as though that Haneke is just kind of he might be doing it to sort of make a critique or discussion on violence in media, but to me it almost sounds as though it's less about having that discussion and more about
pushing an agenda.
Not pushing an agenda, but it just feels like he's trying to say violence in any way, shape, or form, whether it be human on human or human on nature or anything like that. Violence in any shape or form is just completely meaningless. All it does is just cause pain, which, yes, violence causes pain, but sometimes some violence has, a purpose behind it. I'm not trying to say I'm advocating for it in
drawn
any way,
sword
shape,
keeps
or
another
form.
sword
I'm
in the
just
sheath.
saying. Right. Okay. Yeah. That's. I suppose that's one way of putting it. I don't know. I just don't like the way that Haneke kind of views it at all. You know what I mean?
No, I get exactly what you're saying, and I actually agree with you way more than I disagree with you. And I actually tend to be more along the I enjoy the happy ending to a movie, but that does, to me, in my mind, beg the question: what did you think of the movie The Mist? Because it has a very controversial ending that is very dark.
You
That's
went
actually
there.
different than the original source material,
Yes,
but
from
the
the book.
writer. Yep, but the writer Stephen King said if he had thought of that ending, he would have wrote that into his story. So I'm just
Right.
curious,
Right.
is there any movies that have like that gnarly ending,
Or like The
that sort of
Thing,
thing?
where you're not even sure if the monster was defeated at the end or not.
Yeah,
There's
I
another
have
great
two
example.
examples for you in a second. And granted, one of them is not horror. The other one could be construed as horror, I guess, but not really a horror movie either.
But yeah, I was just curious, Ronan, how you felt about something like a movie like that. Like, did they do anything for you, or does that
So
when you see that ending scene, you're like, okay, I just wasted an hour and a half. What the hell was the point of that?
so it's it's interesting you bring it up too, because again, on the same stream we were also discussing The Mist as well. I brought it up mainly because I was like wondering, okay, first, do we consider The Mist to be a sort of disaster film? And then the general consensus was we more or less would refer to it as like a supernatural kind of thriller.
Yeah, it's more of a
Considering that
supernatural
you
thriller,
don't
considering it's not really a
you don't
event
see the
based on
carnage and
Earth.
chaos going on
Well,
because
it's not even
a
that.
lot of the characters
It's
are
not
trapped in.
nature. It's not something that would happen
What?
naturally. It's a
I
portal
mean,
being open to another dimension. Nature doesn't technically do that.
I suppose you're. Well, okay, we'll have that discussion
So
at
I'm
another
not sure
time.
if I
But,
would really call that
anyways,
disaster, but I will call it a slow burn horror thriller in the beginning when you have no idea what's going on.
yeah, of
Like
course,
all you know is there's
100%.
this mist going on. It's the town is covered in it. You can't see more than like 5 feet in front of you, and anyone who
All right,
goes out
so
doesn't come back, and you don't know why.
the argument as to why it could be construed as a disaster film is because when we were discussing this, there's two types of disaster films. You have natural disasters like Day After Tomorrow and 2012, or something like man-made disasters like Geostorm, or we also kind of discussed like
Did you discuss
some of the films that
Moonfall?
had.
they discussed Acts of
You
God
know what?
at that
I'm
point, which
surprised
they
we
brought up.
didn't discuss Moonfall because that's one that we
Because
should have
that is
talked
the
about as well
most
too.
hilarious one ever.
But yeah,
But
they discussed Acts of God like Godzilla being a disaster movie as well.
we made an argument with like Godzilla as well, potentially being a disaster film too. But the reason why The Mist could be construed as that is because again, it's the military experimenting with these like dimensional portals. That's what ends up causing the mist to come in. But again, besides the point, discussing the ending itself, I'll say the same thing that I said on that stream as well too. The film overall was a really well done film. Frank Darabont and Greg Nicotero did a great job with it. I absolutely loved it. Thomas Jane does a really good job in the film as well too. And his performance, especially at the end, was one of the most haunting and just absolutely well executed performances I've ever seen.
I'm trying to remember. I can't remember the religious woman in The Mist. She was also in The Walking Dead, but I can't remember if she was Laurie or Carol.
The religious woman wasn't wasn't Lori. She was the blonde that was helpful, and actually went out with them. The chick who was the religious zealot, I don't
Yes.
believe was ever in The Walking Dead.
Because I know Frank had
I
like a
think
lot of
absolutely
people
right.
who were, kind of he'd use constantly in his films, and they were some of them.
Yeah.
Yes, he does. For that ending itself, I would say, yeah, it was absolutely soul crushing for me. But okay, let me put it like this.
But was it soul crushing in a good way? Like one of those things where it's like, as much as I hate this ending, I can't see it ending any other way.
Was the soul crushing in a
good way?
Okay, you know what? I don't know how much flack I may get for this I've read the original novella when I was in college because it was for a project. I honestly would have preferred that it end in an ambiguous manner than seeing the soul crushing ending that we got in the film. Only because the idea that this man, was trapped in this mist with all these monsters that would be coming around, and they have no means of escaping. So the only thing they can do is just, blast the old couple and shoot his own child, only for him to run out of ammo before he would finally shoot himself and decide, you know what, I'll let the monsters in the mist kill me, only to have the military finally show up and clean up, which means the crazy religious lady was the one that was technically right, yes, which, you know what, I'm a Christian myself, that's kind of cool that she was right, but in this one instance, I wish she wasn't right. Honestly, I wish she wasn't right. But this ending, like, it was bleak. It was bleak. I'm not going to let it ruin the rest of the film for me, though. That's what I will say. The rest of the film was absolutely great.
Bring out about horror films is, are religious horror films, like, is it better to have a more religious side to a supernatural horror film? Like The Exorcist and The Omen and movies like that, where it's clearly defined as this is a Christian or Catholic-based horror film.
I mean, I love the original Exorcist. You can do no wrong with me. William Friedkin was a master director, and he's made some other films that were just absolutely amazing. I love the original Exorcist. I own it on Blu-ray. That film is just so fantastic. I'm just gonna nerd over that one a little bit. Oh my god!
I'm gonna say yes myself personally for one reason. This might be a bit of a selfish reason, but it's because of one little indie video game that I'm currently playing and streaming right now. I started doing it last night, and it's called Faith: The Unholy Trinity.
Oh yes, that's an amazing trilogy.
It is one of the best Christian horror games I've ever seen, and that's the thing. I will call it Christian horror because if I'm correct,
controls.
Yes, if I'm correct,
you have walk and Jesus.
Yes, walk and Jesus. But that's all you need is walk and Jesus, walk and Jesus. You bust out the cross, and the demons flee before you. Huh?
How far are you in that? Are you into the second chapter?
So last night I managed to beat the first chapter. I got almost all of the endings. I fought the secret boss. I just need to get ending 3. I figured out how to do it, and the next time I stream, we'll quickly do that, and then we're gonna jump right into chapter 2.
Okay,
send
you're
me
gonna
an
have
invite
to
because I've never
tell
even
me
heard
if you've
of this
noticed
game.
the difference between 1 and 2 that really does kind of matter to the overall part of the game.
No, absolutely. I have again because I watched the Wendigoon video. I've absolutely watched in depth, so I know the differences that occurs.
Yeah, the cross changing from gold to bronze to silver as he's losing or gaining his faith throughout the game.
Yes, which is a great presentation of that, religious horror that occurs with Father John. The existentialism of like him literally seeing these demons slowly coming into, the mortal realm and their machinations taking shape. Where is God in all of this? Is like, yes, he has the cross and it's helping against the demons, but like, is that all that there is? Like, what else is going to happen? Like, what else can he do? Yes, Father Garcia shows up with a nice 12 gauge. That kind of helps too.
But like,
well,
if we want to go up against religious demons, the best things you can have are the cross, the 12 gauge shotgun, and the chainsaw.
In the words of Terry Pratchett, eat lead and death, demon. In the words of Terry Pratchett. Oh man.
Amen.
Welcome back to Dusk Till Dawn chat.
Oh man.
I think it was. I don't remember which member of the original Doom team said it, but when the Christian church was going after Doom, saying this is a game about Satan worship, they're like, no, if anything, this is the worship of shotguns.
Killing
man.
demons. But no, before we get too far from it, I will go out here and say I love the ambiguous endings. While we were briefly discussing before we're too far away from it, because that's what carries conversations like these.
Right.
The fact that you
Like
have something.
Yeah, I think the thing's probably the best example of it.
You don't know what happened, and your
until you play the video game.
99% of the time is going to be better than what you've seen on that, and you can discuss it and defend your points.
Agreed.
If it's not ambiguous, it's like, okay, yeah, the argument's over.
There's a solid ending, then it's...
Well, they ruined that one.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so I do have one quick question though, because I'm pretty much guaranteed that everybody's seen this film. The 2004, I believe 2004 remake of Dawn of the Dead. That film also had a pretty gnarly ending, as far as it wasn't as straightforward as The Mist was, where you actually saw him shoot his family and then have to walk out, and then it was just like, oh my god, and then the military's right there. It's a double gut punch, where it's these people in the mall, they make it out, they get on the boat, and then they're sailing away. My favorite character gets freaking left on the dock, and you're like, and then while the credits are rolling, it's showing what's going on. Oh my gosh, they look in the cooler, there's a head in there. We're out of fuel, we're out of food, what are we going to do?
And then they get to the island and it's infested by zombies.
Exactly. And then so you don't get to see exactly what happens, other than you see Ving Rhames doing some shooting on the dock and then the camera drops. So it's left more ambiguous, but does that ruin the ride? If you, and this is, I guess, more directed towards you, because the question is, if you tend to enjoy happy endings as I do more, does that mean that the ride is ruined because the end of it was not, wasn't what you wanted and you prefer to see something else? Or do you go, I would watch that again knowing and enjoying it despite knowing where they're going to end up?
Honestly, I'd put it in the latter category, because yes, we know that the ending is ambiguous, but very pessimistically ambiguous as far as we know. Even if they get back on the boat and away from the island, it's going to take a whole lot of ammo to try and clear out that island if they wanted to do that. And if they can't, they most likely are going to all starve to death.
And they don't even have any food or water because it's already been infected by the head that was in the cooler.
And no more fuel to try and make it back to the mainland. So they're pretty much shit out of luck. But the whole film was definitely quite a ride, and it was quite an enjoyment. This is one of the times that I would say that the remake is kind of on par with the original. Now, I understand the original. Everybody loves the original Dawn of the Dead. Everybody absolutely enjoyed it. I liked it myself. I thought it was pretty good too. My only bias, obviously, is because I grew up with the remake, as
Me too.
as I was watching that. And plus, say what you will about him, Zack Snyder actually did a pretty good job with it. Funny enough, too, James Gunn was also there, writing it as well, too. I liked it, and the action in it, the horror in it, it was absolutely entertaining. It was fun. The ending doesn't bother me as much with this one as, like, say, The Mist does, because again, there is some ambiguity behind it. Sure, odds are it's not really looking good for them, but we never really see
a guy shoot his son in the head.
We never see it definitively presented before us. It's kind of on par with, like, The Thing, where you only have Keith David's character and Kurt Russell's character left. They're the only survivors. One of them is definitely going to be The Thing, but we don't know. We have no idea, and that's
then you play the video game.
Well, shoot, with how that's written and how it's acted, everything else, they might not have an idea of who it is either.
Yeah,
right.
Well, that's the whole thing. That's that fun, ambiguous ending. Is who was infected first besides the dog? Because everybody knows at this point, the dog's infected. The dog is a thing.
Right.
But it's like, after that, who was the first one to actually be infected, and how long were they actually hidden?
And even the people that they confirm were infected throughout the timeline of the movie, when on the timeline were they infected? Like, there's so many good questions, and plus, people play into the, if their eyes reflect, if you see a glint in their eyes, and that means that they're human and that they're not a thing. There's so many good, and the amount of coats that are hanging on the wall, and what color they are, and whose they could be, and when somebody was infected. There's so many videos on that, which I found with the Thing in particular such an interesting film because of that. And then like what Tobias is saying, yeah, well, unless you play the games, in which case you find out that Childs froze to death and McCready is not a thing. And then so you're like, oh, neither of them. I guess neither of them. So
it's that comes down to a question of canon too, and the way I view a movie like that, like
because I don't know if John Carpenter has ever said that the game's canon or not. I know he's in the game.
To me,
it's Dr. Faraday in the game.
Movie ends, and it's everything between movie start and movie ends, to where it cuts off on the DVD on both ends, or the VHS if you're old enough.
Yeah.
You can say, oh yeah, well the game extended the canon. Not the fucking me. Not
a lot of people say that about the prequel too.
Yeah, which I actually
the prequel
enjoyed.
Would have been great if they had left it alone.
Yes, I mean, I didn't like the CG as much, but
nobody liked the CG because it went
took...
over all the practical stuff that they wanted to do for the prequel that they had already had. It's called the pilot cut.
Yeah,
well, I just kind of ignore that the 2011 prequel exists.
Well, I will say this about the 2011 prequel: the way that they were very careful about looking at the original film and everything in the Norwegian base that was destroyed and how it was destroyed. They tried to very carefully recreate so that it would be canon to what they find in the original film.
Yeah, like the axe on the wall, or the guy who slit his own wrists while sitting at the radio operator's table.
Yeah, they were very careful to make sure that all that lined up with the original film.
Which I like, and I also like that they created their own...
and said, we want CGI on everything, it probably would have been a much better film.
Yeah, and they did their own version of the blood test, which was who has caps on their teeth, which I thought was an interesting way of getting around them doing a blood, doing a 1-for-1 of the blood test. Because it's like, what's the likelihood that you come up with the same thing with two completely different groups of people? And then it's like, oh, well, who has caps on their teeth?
Yeah, it's like,
because,
we know this creature cannot replicate inorganic matter. It has to be completely biological 1-for-1. So if somebody has something artificial, it won't be able to replicate that.
Yeah, and the guy who's like, what, you're going to jump, like, I'm the monster because I fucking brush my teeth? Are you kidding me? Which I love. I thought that was great. And again, like, there's drawbacks, and of course the final scene of, like, with the alien and some of that stuff. But, I mean, again, with the earring on the guy's ear, I thought that I felt like they did a lot more right than they did wrong. And I especially like it if you watch the prequel, how it ends. If you go from that immediately into the original from the 80s, they go like from him hanging out of the helicopter, shooting at the dog, to the beginning of the original of him hanging out of the helicopter, shooting at the dog. It's like they go right into one another, which I actually liked. I've done them back to back several times and I find that it makes the prequel much easier to watch, especially because you know that you're going to be going into a better movie. But yeah, they make a fun double feature.
Yeah, like if you're really gonna try and remake the Thing or change it in some way, and you're not gonna do the blood test, but you know it has to be organic, like what other things could you think of besides like, oh, it's this guy always has an earring and now he doesn't, or these guys had fillings and now they don't, or like what I could have seen like one guy being like an amputee or something, and all of a sudden, hey, wait a minute, you're walking around like normal. You weren't doing that before because you only had one leg.
Exactly. Well, and
that would have been a huge tell, but at the same time, it's like you could see the Thing making that kind of a mistake early on when it's just starting to figure out humans.
Well, and it's the ultimate imitation, right? But I don't think it's ever been expressly told in the canon whether or not like it absorbs like your memories, and then so like if somebody was to have an interaction with,
are you normally human and this thing is just infecting you, or are you dead and this thing has made a perfect replica?
Yeah,
Like, I don't think they ever explain that either.
No, and I think that again, with the ambiguity of that is what makes it interesting because you could go a lot of different ways with that. But yeah, no, I mean, if we're talking creature features, I mean, this is a bit of a right turn. I've always loved werewolves more than vampires, but there's way more great vampire movies than there
I
are
could take a
great
werewolf, just not in a
werewolf
fight.
movies. But
Well, no,
I watched the other night.
I got one to fuck with y'all in a minute, but we could go into this first.
Okay. Oh, okay. I was just gonna say, just because I watched it the other night, it's fresh in my mind. It's one of my favorites ever. Is Dog Soldiers. I think
Oh,
is
hell yeah.
Okay, all right.
Dog Soldiers
fantastic
is a
horror
great
movie.
film.
I mean, not only is it, set in the Scottish Highlands, does it have really great character actors who really fit the scene, but
And they
just
just
an
have a lot of
excellent
fun with
cast.
it in general.
But what
Mhm.
about the
Well,
fact
I was
that
gonna
they?
say, you want to talk about your endings? This is the one.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love that movie. But the
And we're
fact
still
that one
waiting
of
to
the
see if
things
they ever make a sequel.
One of the things that I loved about that film was when they immediately smash cut to their werewolf's perspective. It's black and white. It moves very fast and very silently. And then it also is like 8 feet off the ground because they're very tall. So it lends you to go, oh my gosh, these things are way taller than 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 what you would probably traditionally think. It's not like, American Werewolf in London where it's a quadruped. This is a biped. And then these things are fucking huge. And so it's kind of like with Evil Dead, how they would put the camera on a 2x4 and run through the forest with it. It's like a very interesting point of view. It's like that's the point of view of the entity, the evil entity going through the forest. They did a similar thing, only in black and white. And especially because it's during the night. So they're showing night vision, which isn't as clear. And then they're black and white filmmaking. And it's like, holy shit, these things can see that well at night. And they can move that fast. And they're that tall and that high off the
I
ground.
think the way
Like,
it was described when it was originally being teased was Precinct 13 with werewolves.
oh, dude, it's so.
Or
I
Assault on
just love
Precinct 13.
I just love that you can take a camera shot like that and with some very simple framing imply so many things that are later shown throughout the film, like the size of the the size of the werewolves, how fast they move, how tall they are, all implied without you ever directly seeing them, just because you're seeing it from their point of view, like, and why they're so dangerous at night, how they can see so well, and blah blah blah. Like, I loved everything about that, and that was just done with a simple camera shot. I'm just like, that's to me expert level filmmaking. That you just I think that only comes from the inspiration of like low budget filmmakers who like, I have an idea, I know exactly what I want to see, and then they put it to film with the constraints of that, as opposed to these big Hollywood movies. There's like, it's a director, but he didn't write the script himself. There was
Also,
a
horror
little
is a
bit of a
lot
bidding
easier
war.
for new directors or micro directors to make when you really think about
Yes,
it, because you
it's
don't
always
need
been a
that
low
much to make a
budget
horror
genre.
film.
No,
Well,
they've always
it's
been
that
low.
you trust them with 25 million or 250 million at first. That's why a lot of directors get their starts in horror.
Well, I mean,
Yep.
what about the greatest return on investment of all time, which would be the Blair Witch Project, made for
Yep.
literally next to nothing and had the greatest return on investment ever of any film ever of
And
all time.
completely revived
Just
the found
penny-
footage genre.
I was gonna say it just made pennies on the dime and basically brought the found footage genre to like the spotlight once again.
Like, we wouldn't have the, what was it called, the Paranormal Activity series without the Blair Witch Project.
And
I mean,
Like,
the
you would not have been
closest thing
able
that-
to make a movie like Paranormal Activity 1, where
The
it's mostly
closest
just
thing that-
dull shots and sped up footage of nothing happening, but still
The
having
one-
that kind of dread build up. It's like, okay, I know something's going to happen. When's it going to happen? What's
and
going to
both of those
happen?
movies creep me the fuck out. And as somebody who scarred his daughter with the Blair Witch Project, even though it was made in the 1990s,
How could you?
telling them, no, by the way, this is real, right before the beginning of the movie, and then at the very end of the movie,
You are
going,
cruel,
okay,
Red.
okay, by the way,
Red.
that I'm just lying. I'm totally bullshitting you. This is not real. This is not.
No, I
Oh,
had the movie
man.
you should show her because she'd be laughing through the entire movie. sorry. This was the tangent I wanted to go on, and you brought up
Go
monster
ahead.
movies, and
Sorry,
I've been
go
rubbing
ahead.
my hands together, waiting to say this one word. This one word will elicit laughs from all of you, but I don't know what to describe it other than horror comedy. Tremors.
Yes.
Oh, I literally just showed that to my other younger children.
Oh, yes.
I'm not talking about the sequel. The first one I love, and the second one I love for the wrong reasons. But the first one I love.
The first one is a great thriller.
Tremors is like a teenage or adult version of basically Gremlins. It's like monsters on the loose. Yes, the monsters are a little bit more serious than like the crazy, wacky Gremlins that just run amok doing all kinds of
Jaws on land
stuff. Yes, it's basically Jaws on land.
Yeah, they react like normal people, and I don't know why this is so foreign, but I absolutely love it there.
That's probably the best part of a lot of these horror films that are like a little more like it. It's like I like it when even in a horror film people act like regular people would.
What the hell is going on? I mean, what the hell is going on?
When he first sees it, that line alone is just like, yeah, that's how normal people would fucking react to it. It would be, hey, gang, let's go investigate. It's like, what the hell is that
shit? Most sane reaction after killing a giant Precambrian era worm. Fuck you!
That thing's not knocked out. That thing's dead.
Nope. Don't want to lynch it. Don't want to lynch it.
Wrong goddamn rec room, didn't you?
Yes. No, I was just gonna say, I guarantee all of us here in some way, shape, or form can literally relate to fucking Burt Gummer himself, the absolute king. Burt Gummer, dude. Oh my god.
Dude. Who doesn't want to be Burt when they grow up, when they saw that as a kid?
And going off the idea of how normal people act, I don't remember the comedian's name, but he had this thing where it was like the difference between white people and black people in horror films or in a horror situation. The white people walking into the house, Billy, where are you, Billy? Black people, however, run the fuck away, Billy's fucking dead. Forget Billy, Billy's dead.
All I can remember is,
like, which one's more realistic?
Well, I can remember freaking 2.5 Men where Jake's home alone doing something. He's watching a horror movie. It's like, Corey's been dead for an hour, you idiot.
I will say, it is, if anyone remembers the Geico commercial with the horror movie trope of these idiots.
I know what you're.
And then they go in and they hide in the shed, and the killer's right behind him. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
They're hiding in between like all his weapons, and he just
he's just sitting behind them. Like, what the hell are you doing?
And during all of this, the one girl's just like, "Why can't we just get to the moving car?" And the dude's just like, "Are you crazy? Look, let's hide in the shed over there." Yeah, okay, good idea. And then that shit
running
happens.
Out. Let's hide behind the chainsaws.
Oh my god!
But Tremors itself, like, I don't know what you'd call it other than a horror movie.
So I would call it a thriller. Okay. Like I'd call it a creature thriller because it does have that build up at the beginning of like what is going on, why are all these people suddenly dying? And it's like even the guy who's like up on the telephone pole is like, you're right there with them. It's like, what the hell kept him up there that long?
I think the
it
best
couldn't have been
label
a human
for
serial killer because even the human serial killer would have got bored and walked away. He would have been able to come down.
I think the best label for it would be something like monster movie. So like it would be in the same vein as, of course, you know, something like Godzilla or something like Beast from 20,000 Fathoms
Creature
or something like creature feature, monster film. Basically, that's what you
like
would
King
best
Kong
describe.
And all that.
Tremors.
Like even when you look at like King Kong and the creature from 20,000 Fathoms, they are horror movies in their own way.
Yeah, which is what I was going to say. Yeah, it is essentially just another subgenre of horror or science fiction, but it definitely leans more into the horror aspect.
Yeah, they started out leaning much more into the horror aspect of things. It's like even though it's a giant monster coming in and destroying the city, it's still horrifying that this kind of creature exists in this universe. It's like,
right.
You'd be absolutely terrified if there's a giant ape going through your city, smashing up buildings. You wouldn't be all calm and running away. You would be shitting your pants and running.
But yeah, it's just notably about Tremors before we move away from it. Filmed in broad daylight. They had
Yes.
Jaws on land, essentially. But, I mean,
Mhm.
it's something, there's desert all around. There's good visibility for everything else. And then it's random body on top of a telephone pole. Random body on top of a rock. And
All
people
these
trying to
entire
figure
car
out
buried.
because it looks like a killer doing, like, very peculiar things. And it's like, well, there's no bite marks or slash marks or
there's no reason.
There's no real cause of death. Is like, well, what he died from? Well, dehydration. He ran out of water and just died up there.
It's like, why would he stay up there that long? And you're questioning it because even they're like, if it was actually a serial killer on the loose, why would he just sit at the bottom of this telephone pole and wait?
And he had a gun. That was the other thing. Is like,
and then later on, they find the buried car. It's like, okay, a serial killer definitely couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, dude, the original Tremors, I actually just watched that with my boys. I absolutely loved it. They thought that it was fun. And then I was like, by the way, because we're going to watch the second one, and how I got them into it, I was like, now you remember how they played Lasso with the bombs? I was like, what if they put bombs on RC cars? And they were like, I'm in, Dad. I'm in. I want to see this.
I still love the idea that you go from Burt Gummer having all the guns and ammunition in his rec room to Burt Gummer in the second movie saying, I am completely out of ammo. This has never happened to me before.
Never happened to me before.
It's like, that shows a huge difference between the two. It's like, you have overly
Burt's
prepped,
still alive.
And
they didn't get him.
Are you sure?
Are you sure? Yeah, the truck's just an
truck.
absolute mess.
They're just like, I think they did get him.
Or probably
Luckily,
like the biggest
a bunch of
surprise in that,
different
like, okay, we killed the last one, we can get away, but wait a minute, this bullet penetrated the wall behind it, and then the truck
dude. Shit, yes, that weapon, dude. Oh my god.
A 20 millimeter bolt
and he was just
action
like, I
anti-tank
didn't
gun.
And it's one of those that he's like, hold your ears, and like you see windows breaking around him.
The way that the baby grab boy just bursted, just completely exploded like that was glorious. Oh man,
it was a lot like how they did the whole collision thing with the first one. Like when you see it run into that wall and just explode at contact with it because it's going so fast.
Well, and I love that
it's a nice little callback to that.
Well, I love that it's played up for laughs. That the fact that he has this, huge gun, he's got one round, and he totally smokes the thing, and then it goes through multiple things and ends up hitting their truck, which is their getaway.
Yeah, and hit the engine block too. Yeah. That's right.
Oh my gosh, that's totally stupid. But then he goes, "Of course, I need." Yeah, it makes sense.
I'll go inside. I'll get some bombs, and then he can't figure out what to do, so he just tosses the bomb in the back of the truck. And Bert's like, "You did what?"
I just like how it logically made sense, though, because like as far as like for the writing aspect of that film, like he goes, "No, I was looking for something with maximum penetration because I'm shooting things in the ground." Yeah. So of course he's going to have a rifle that can actually do that. And then so like even on like from a writing point of view, it was actually very clever and very well written and played for laughs, which is like that's chef's kiss. That's a fantastic scene.
Yeah, well, he's sitting there, he's explaining that while he's in the bulldozers kind of freaking thing, hiding on there. And then like the thing beside him's making noise like, "You shut up!"
Yeah.
Oh man, those movies
that's kind of like a natural evolution of horror when you think about it, from going from horror to comedy, because a lot of movies do that.
And
like
then what
Nightmare
about
on Elm Street, the very first one was purely horror, and then you get further along in the series, and he starts like going along with the jokes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, and the fact that they play it for a joke in the fourth Tremors movie, that it's Bert's ancestor back in the 1800s, and he doesn't like firearms, but it's the same actor. And then so it's like that's the entire thing is played for a joke until he kills one with a cannon at the very end, and then he's like, "And that's what." Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
what ends up getting them, like, getting his whole lineage into like a love of firearms, which I just, and plus it's such an American thing. That's just not a film that would be made in other countries, just because it's like,
Yeah.
you have this
It's
dude
so
who's
American,
holed
just the
up in the
love of
desert.
guns.
Yes,
No,
exactly.
Absolutely.
I still
I can
love the way
remember the
Bert
ending.
explains the punt gun in that one. It's just like, Mr. Gummer, what is a punt gun for? It has something to do with hunting ducks. A great many ducks.
Well, no, shoot. In the first movie, Bert, what is this fuse? He's like, oh, it's cannon fuse. Well, what do you use it for? My cannon.
My cannon.
And then to go along in the second one, freaking, he's like, you tossed it in the back of my truck, and he wheels around, and it's just like, oh, Bert, tell me it's going to be enough. Tell me it's going to be enough. Oh, never mind. Run. It's going to be big.
I like they all jump down into the ditch. He's like, no, further. We have to keep going.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Get
That's
down.
You can
Stay
ask-
down. Cover your ears.
Yeah, you can ask the Mexican military for anything, and you ask them for one case of dynamite. Like, you fools! Oh man, he's such an
God's
interesting
tank gun that I
character.
had repurposed for this situation.
Oh my
Even
god!
when he's approaching, they're looking at the seismometer. That thing's big. It's coming up for us. Oh, it ain't a graboid.
It's something more dangerous.
It must be the biggest graboid ever. That's no graboid. It's something worse.
Where'd you get the
man.
name Graboid? What, a guy named that Asian shop
Walter
board?
Chang.
Yeah, Walter Chang
Chang,
named
yeah.
him, and then they ate him.
But when he calls Bert, it's like got the rabbit on the wall, the deer on the wall, the graboid on the wall.
Yes, the
Graboid just hung where it came through.
Holy crap, bro!
Can you believe that she said that I just couldn't get over the fact that the end of the Soviet Union? What do you have to say to a man?
Basically, we couldn't afford Reba. What's a really good line? Oh, hell yeah, we're going with that.
Oh god, that's hilarious. There's just so
Oh,
many good
God.
one-liners from that movie. Like, even in the first one, it's like, "Hey Bert, I got you cheese and some bullets." Thanks, Walter. Before they ride out on their horses. Oh god. I say that all the time. All I need is some cheese and some bullets, because it's like you need to survive.
Rock rips
Nice.
through paper.
Yeah,
Hey, paper covers rock. Grady, paper always covers rock.
covers rock.
Or one of my personal favorites I use at work. Hey, I'm older and I'm wiser. Well, you're half right.
Yeah, you're older. That's fantastic. I'm so glad that you brought up Tremors. Those movies are so fun, and just like you said, it's in bright daylight, and it totally subverts the genre in that regard, because it's like, most horror movies require the dark, because people are inherently
Hide the
afraid of
effect
the
and that
dark.
kind of stuff.
Well, the problem is that it was really one of the first of its kind there. They didn't know how to market the thing, so it made no money.
Yeah.
But then, like, people saw it on, like, well, it's called on demand now, but it was called pay-per-view back in the day and DVD sales.
And they were running it
Became a
on
cult
channels like
classic,
Sci-Fi too.
and then immediately made money.
Yeah, it was.
Oh,
What do they call it? It's a VHS rental. Yeah, I don't remember what they call it exactly, but it's the specific term for movies that were terrible in theaters, but when they went to video rental stores, they made a ton of money. I know there's a term for it, but I don't know what that term is.
I'm not gonna say cult film. I know that's not the phrase you're looking for, but obviously, Tremors is definitely a cult film.
Classic, yeah.
Well, you used to be able, when they would make films, you used to be able to, even if the movie you knew wasn't all that going to the movie theater or sending your movie to the movie theater was not to make money. The entire point of your movie going to the movie theater was a giant advertisement for the DVD and the VHS sales. So that's why there used to be a huge proliferation of films like rom-coms with Matthew McConaughey in the early 2000s, was because it didn't have to make a shitload of money in the movie theater like these Avengers movies and stuff do. it was just an advertisement for the DVDs. But because of streaming services, there is no back end. And actors also got a much larger share of like the DVD sales and stuff. Because again, how much did it take to produce a DVD and a slipcover in a plastic case? And the proportion of the money that they got, because they would pay, you know, $20-$30 for those, and it would cost you less than $1 in most cases for them to print those out and put it together to sell out, versus a huge portion of it going to the movie theater is taken by the movie theaters themselves. And then so how the film industry used to make money was completely different, and streaming completely upended that whole thing. And then
I
so
found the
now
term. It's called a
yes.
sleeper hit.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Sleeper hit.
I was sitting there trying to Google it myself while listening.
But one thing I also want to bring up is like introducing kids to horror films. Like,
I've done a lot of that.
Well, there's a lot of it, but the same way, it's like, how do you like want to introduce someone like who's never seen a horror film? They're like a kid who's never seen a horror film, but you want them to kind of get into horror, but you don't want them to go into the deep end immediately.
Yeah, you like, start with Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island.
Exactly. That is a great that movie start. With that soundtrack is amazing.
Yeah.
Terror Time is still an amazing song.
Yeah, and with books like Goosebumps and stuff like that, and then how I got my daughter when
without being gross or disturbing. It's horror, just kind of like it's a light horror.
Well, and I believe, like, my method was when I haven't done this for my boys because they're too young, but my daughter's now, she's in high school. The thing that you could do was for these, like, when we started getting into gnarlier and gnarlier movies, she had a curiosity. She wanted to see them, and especially because it's, like, around Halloween, there's advertisements of, like, Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff like that. So what I did was, before we watched the movie, was I showed her some of the behind the scenes for how they made certain things. So like like when Freddy pushes his face in the original through the wall, that was actually done with a silk screen and stuff like that. So then it gives more context to those sorts of things so that they're not like completely freaked out when they're done. Now, again, I'm also a terrible person that told her, no, by the way, this found footage in the Blair Witch Project was real, but that was only for an hour and a half. I scarred my child.
And to be fair, that is kind of how they marketed it originally.
And it's not actually a bloody movie, and other than like
that's one of the great things about like early horror films is they are a lot less violent than you remember them being.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it has very little actual violence. It's all
I think the only blood that is actually in the Blair Witch Project is when they go outside of their tent and then they have the little bag and they open it up and it's filled with bloody teeth. And I think that's it. Otherwise, it's little kid handprints on the wall when they finally make it to that thing. And then
even most of that was just the directors messing with them the entire time.
Yeah, and then the guy standing in the corner.
For anything. It was all guerrilla filming.
So
even when they were out, they literally gave Josh a piece of paper the night before he vanished saying, "We need you to disappear for this next bit."
So in terms of
he's just gone after that.
In terms of introducing horror films to children, this was one that kind of just popped into my head because I think I recently saw like a clip of it on YouTube as an advertisement. This one kind of surprised me a bit. I haven't seen the film, but I'm actually very curious of watching it now. It's called Sketch. And it's a 2024 film that actually got released and distributed like around August of this year by none other than Angel Studios. That actually surprised me that the same studios that basically created The Chosen, which I don't know if you guys know that, but it's like basically a television show about the gospel of Jesus. So it takes like the books of like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and so on and so forth, kind of adapts them into a TV series.
Yeah,
English translations, but anyways, the film Sketch is like said to be a fantasy comedy horror film. It's like about a little girl whose like book ends up coming to life, but the book happens to have like a lot of monster drawings inside, so the monsters themselves end up coming to life as well. This is kind of an interesting thing that Angel Studios is actually distributing such a film.
Mm-hmm.
But I imagine that since it is supposed to be a sort of kids film with like horror and comedy elements combined together into it, I presume that obviously it's not as crazy as something like Nightmare on Elm Street or something as crazy as like say Cooties with Elijah Wood. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that film before.
I have.
Yes.
Very
So so I assume it's not supposed to be something as crazy as that, where you see like kids running around, literally killing each other, dismembering one another and whatnot. But this is kind of another interesting thing is that we are seeing horror films slowly being made for children once again, which I don't think we've seen anything like that in quite some time.
What the hell is that Bette Midler movie where her and Sarah Jessica Parker? Yes, yeah, that's a fantastic one for kids. I remember enjoying that.
No, I was going to bring up my introduction. Hocus Pocus is a good introduction. Mine was a little older, but y'all will recognize the name, especially because it's managed to hang on and get extended for a little while, despite the third movie in the series completely veering off. Evil Dead.
Yes.
And I was about 14 or 15 years old, and it's like, oh, apparently that movie has tits, so there was immediate interest. That's really all it took at that age.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I was allowed to watch a lot of stuff when I was a lot younger. So I mean, I have drawings of from my third grade year where I was drawing scenes from Highlander. I mean, and they're showing decapitations and stuff like that. But I mean, my favorites growing up were Aliens. I mean, that was my favorite for a long time. I remember I used to watch it on my birthday every year, but that's because my parents were cool as fuck.
But no, it's if we want to go into that, the jokey one of that is Army of Darkness. But then again, I mean, Bruce Campbell, hell, he went back to the well after how many years to make an Evil Dead series?
Which I heard was actually really well done, but I have not seen the series.
I haven't either because it was on fucking Stars, which no one ever fucking had.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have no idea who has the rights now. I've heard wonderful things about it, but it's like the only people I know who have Apple TV right now are like T-Mobile subscribers. And I don't know what mobile service provides Stars, but apparently those are the only people who've seen Evil Dead. Granted, it parlayed so much interest back into that franchise. They made games for it, and the games sold pretty good. I mean, hell, a few of our friends have played them and streamed them, and they were pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, the newer game, yes, but the original ones were pretty bad.
Yeah, he was actually my most recent.
Boomstick.
Nobody
even talks about Regeneration.
Yeah, I was talking about the ones like prior or following the
revival. I don't
know what they're called.
Which I think was literally just called Evil Dead as well.
Yeah, they are.
It was a series as opposed to movie though. So I mean, it's differentiated in that aspect.
Oh no, you're talking about Ash versus Evil Dead. That's the one you're talking about.
Oh
yeah, that's the series.
Yeah, so that's the series that actually had like Bruce Campbell come back and everything.
Yeah.
And I think his daughter's involved in it, and then of course you have the remake movies, which is Evil Dead and Evil Dead Rise, separated from that. Though it's interesting though that Evil Dead did kind of like slowly, well, not slowly. The 2013 Evil Dead hinted at Ash possibly coming back because you see him in the post credits. So that's kind of curious, but they never obviously did that crossover.
Yeah, they.
Oh man,
but
the 2013 remake of Evil Dead is amazing. I absolutely love that one. I mean, of course, it's a great way to remake the
movie and not make it a Bruce Campbell film.
Exactly.
Like it makes the Evil Dead scary again.
Yes.
Especially like at the beginning of it, like if you had watched that movie and you hadn't seen them finding the Necronomicon and all that, you really would assume that it's just this person going through insane withdrawals. You wouldn't assume they're possessed by evil.
Yeah, and getting raped by a tree. Yeah, for sure.
Like at the beginning,
later
on, it's very obvious it's supernatural. But like at the beginning, when everything's just starting to go downhill, you don't really notice. Hey, if you hadn't seen them get the book, if you hadn't seen the beginning part of it, you would just assume, okay, this is a movie about someone going through an absolutely insane drug withdrawal.
Yeah.
And it's more
okay.
realistic and terrifying like that because it's relatable. And then they get into the more supernatural stuff.
Yeah, with the Deadites. Yeah.
Well, I just saw this movie, and I totally forgot. I saw this when I was a kid, and it is rated PG, so technically it is okay for kids to see as far as the rating is. But this is a 1982 film, so this is before the invention of PG-13. Poltergeist? Did you guys see Poltergeist when you were a kid?
PG.
This house is clean.
Yeah.
The fucking clown under the little boy's bed? Are you serious, sir?
I do like the scene in that where they're in the motel room and they kick the TV out.
The TV out at the very end? Yeah, it's the very final shot of the movie.
In the 1980s, we scarred our children and we were damn proud of it.
So the only reason I know about the clown through Poltergeist is regrettably because of Scary Movie 2. And,
yeah.
John Wayne's having his experience with the clown. Yeah.
Oh my god. I totally forgot about that.
Andy Richter in the fucking father's vestments.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I totally forgot about that scene.
You want to go off older horror parodies. There was also Dracula Dead and Loving It with Leslie Nielsen.
Oh, Leslie Nielsen.
Yep.
Oh, yep.
So and then you had stuff like after Saturday Night Live, they'd have Saturday Night Dead, and it would be horror films.
Man,
it's like I think Cecil from Good Bad Flicks was talking about that when he did a review of The Incredible Melting Man, and it was the first time he'd ever seen it on TV. Was after Saturday Night Live, if his dad was asleep and left the TV on, it would switch over to Saturday Night Dead, and it would have like an Elvira knockoff kind of thing, and her and her friends would be riffing these horror movies while they're playing, and it introduced a lot of people to a lot of the more B-rated horror films.
Okay. I just saw this, and not to detract from what we're talking about. The guy who directed Poltergeist was also the original director of the original 1974 Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I just find...
Yeah, Toby Hooper directed Poltergeist.
Yeah, and he also directed the very interesting music video for Billy Idol's Dancing with Myself. I'm not sure if you've seen the music video for that and what that song's really about.
Oh, Lord.
I did not know that was the same. Oh my god, it's so
that explains
funny.
Quite a bit, actually.
It removes the ambiguity.
Actually, you know what? Speaking of Toby Hooper, since we brought him up now, so yeah, he directed the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he has directed, Poltergeist. But I don't know how often this one gets overlooked, but it's just kind of an interesting jump, shall we say? Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. How we go from this we go from like this very gritty, dark, serious kind of like horror film about a cannibal family to then a full-on gallows humor, dark comedy kind of film about the same cannibal family. But now they're just running them out like they're a bunch of goofball teenagers. Hell, with even the poster basically mocking the Breakfast Club. Yeah.
Oh god.
I've never seen this.
Not to mention you have Dennis Hopper with two chainsaws calling himself the Lord of the Harvest.
No.
Yep. Dennis Hopper, the crazy chainsaw dual-wielding sheriff.
Oh, fuck. I knew this film existed, and until I literally just looked at it, that it is like the Breakfast Club.
Tom Savini's in that film, too.
Yep, yeah, he is.
I was going to say, what you're saying sounds like if somebody let, these four women from Saturday Night Live, make a Ghostbusters sequel or something.
Well, who would ever even think of something like that? Come on now, Pat Ball. That's insane.
Dude, no.
You want to go into Ghostbusters, I will say the last one, not Frozen Kingdom, the one before that,
Afterlife.
Afterlife was actually a really good film, and I liked the way they sent off I can't remember
Harold Ramis.
Yeah, the way they sent him off at the end. I think that was really fitting for that kind of film.
Yeah.
But I do love Bill Murray going through like all these government organizations, and we had to call in my stepdad for this one because we wanted to show him like he's going over like the U.S. government, the state of New York, Ducks Unlimited.
I was gonna say, if you remember the classic message from the first Ghostbusters, it's libertarians versus the U.S. government.
Yeah.
They had a business. They wanted to run the business, and the FDA, or not the FDA, the EPA. That's the one. The EPA. They fucked it up.
It's so
Thanks
funny.
to Peckless Peck.
This man has no
dick. Man has no dick.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I heard, which may or may not be fucking HDR. I could not tell.
Oh my god.
You want horror comedy? There's a really great one right there too.
Which is, now that we're talking about it, actually makes me wonder. Like, there's quite an overlap with horror and comedy. Like, quite a whole ton of overlap with it.
So much that it's created its own kind of subgenre too.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Before we float away from Ghostbusters too far, do you know what released either that week or within 1 week of it? I can't remember which it was, but it was right around it.
I do not know.
Gremlins.
Oh, yes. Yes. Here we go. Back to the creature features.
That was a loaded box office, but you got your horror comedy, and you have those two releasing either the same day or within a week of each other.
Both
I can't
with
remember
big names.
What.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh,
Ivan Reitman on one side, Joe Dante on the other.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's crazy that you say that, because if I'm not mistaken, isn't Egon the writer from Ghostbusters, the writer of Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Isn't he the guy who wrote that? If I'm not mistaken, of the original.
Ramis? No, I'd be genuinely shocked if that was actually the case. I don't believe that.
Hold on, let's
take a look.
I remember whoever created it said that he got the idea because he was standing in Sears and it was during Christmas, and then he saw a display for chainsaws and was like, "Man, if I started this thing right now, everybody would scream and freak out and get out of my way so that I could actually get my whatever he was trying to buy." Let me look that up real quick.
So let's see here. Toby Hooper was one of the writers for the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The other writer is Kim David Henkel is the name that's coming up.
Okay.
Let's see if we can find something about that whole story there, if anything.
And just for confirmation, both Ghostbusters and Gremlins, June 8th, 1984. You don't really think blockbuster tentpole, but that was the time of the release.
That is crazy.
Amazing.
Dude, it's pre-internet. Freaking theaters were stacked. Yeah. Like they talk about competition now week to week. Like, oh, if we release this weekend, we'll win this weekend because there's absolutely nothing. And they plot out their major movies not to go against anything. Back then, you didn't have a choice in the matter. It's we're going to release it here. Why? Because the movie's ready and this is the best window for it. Oh, what if it's against something else like it? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, we better be better.
That's competition, man. I mean, look at how many studios back then versus right now. Hell, that's when even Disney was in the game, and it's like anything more adult-oriented, well, we're going to detach Disney from it, and we'll give it to Touchstone. We'll let them put out all our stuff that's adult-oriented. Not like adult in the not in the adult sense, like adults only, but anything pretty much PG.
Anything that wasn't a PG rating. A G or PG, it was Disney. Anything above that went to Touchstone.
Speaking of getting your beginnings in horror films too, I just noticed here the writer for Gremlins was Chris Columbus, basically one of the first directors for the Harry Potter films. Imagine that.
Oh shit! I was gonna go along like, oh, he wrote Home Alone. That's the first
right.
Thing
yes, he did also write Home Alone as well too. Almost forgot.
My
God.
Actually, Home Alone is a horror movie from the Wet Bandit's point of view.
Oh God, yeah. Actually, from Kevin's point of view, being an 8-year-old stranded in there, and he's seeing people getting their houses robbed around him.
Oh,
He doesn't
Well,
know
I
what
mean-
they'll do if they find him in there alone. He's 8 or whatever.
Well,
But then
he's a
again,
very
he buys like
maniacal
3 bags.
8-year-old.
Yeah, he buys like 3 bags of groceries for $20.
Okay, I got one for you. Have you guys? Of course, we know what's his face, the guy who directed 2008 Iron Man. What the hell is that guy's name?
Favreau.
Yeah, Jon Favreau. He, oh, I guess he was just a star in this. Never mind. I thought that he did this one. It was Peter Berg. There's a movie that came out in 1998 that Jon Favreau's in called Very Bad Things, and I was just like,
yeah.
if you've seen that
I
movie.
remember this one.
It's a pretty twisted movie about 4 guys who are, if I'm not mistaken, they're at a bachelor party in Vegas and they accidentally kill a prostitute. One of them does, and then they try to cover up the murder. And what made me think of it is because we brought up Home Alone, and one of the guys is the tall guy out of the two wet bandits.
Daniel Stern. Yep.
Yes, Daniel Stern. Yes, and in this movie, and for some reason I thought that he had directed that, but no, he's just the star of it. It's Peter Berg, the guy who actually directed Lone Survivor, is actually the guy who did this movie. Talk about switching genres and the things that you can direct.
Yeah.
Well, it's Favreau. The first thing I remember him from is PCU. Like, he's been all over the place, though. But if you actually know PCU, the movie, which I'm finding out is more of an underground classic that not a lot of people have seen. Not a horror movie. Sorry, we're off topic there. But
I don't know. Jon Favreau is pretty horrifying now.
He plays a stoner, which, real shock here, but it's like 1992. And at that point, Hollywood was aping on political correctness. And like the PCU, it stands for Politically Correct University, but like in like canonical cinema sense, it's Portchester University.
Holy shit, Jeremy Piven's in this too.
Yes,
oh my
god! I
just
noticed that Jeremy Piven was in there.
Yeah, Jeremy Piven was the lead, which he essentially plays a douchebag, but it's kind of a lovable douchebag at that point. Like, they go over their accomplishments. Like, apparently they had a smoke-a-thon on Earth Day. They installed speed bumps on the handicap ramps. And they dumped meat on a vegan protest.
Well, to be fair, I'd do that too.
Dude, Jon Favreau has dreads. Oh my god!
The whole idea of it is it centers on this kid who's making a college visit over the weekend, and as a prank, one of his chapter mates, housemates, signed up Jeremy Piven to be like his tour guide, essentially his chaperone for it, and this guy essentially pisses off the entire campus, and it culminates with them having a party to raise money to save their house.
Oh my god, that's hilarious! I can't believe I've never heard of this. That is awesome.
It's like, if you look at it, it's David Spade pre-SNL.
Wow,
that's where he got his start from. And the kid in there, it's like they call him Skinny Chris Farley, and it's like, well, he does have a resemblance if you knock off like 140 pounds of Chris Farley. Yeah, we're fading a bit away from the horror there, but yeah, if I had to recommend a movie non-horror wise that's comedy that's underappreciated, it's PCU.
Oh my gosh, that I'm definitely gonna have to check that out. I love going and seeing movies like from those time periods that I grew up and that I've never seen before. I'm like, dude, this is just giving me like Biodome vibes. Like, this is awesome.
Pretty close, yeah.
Yeah. This is awesome.
I'm hoping it's as good as I remember it, because it's been probably 2 decades at least since I've seen it. And I loved it back then.
Oh my god, Biodome is still a fantastic movie. That will never be a bad movie to me. I love Pauly Shore though. Anyway, let's get back to
we've tangented this train wreck. We can find the rail to get back.
Oh my god!
Getting a little bit back on track, I'm gonna say this has been a good year for horror video games as well. Because so far we have had probably 3 that have been like major hits.
what the Silent Hill 2 remake,
Well,
the
no, that
Silent
was a
Hill
couple of years
F.
ago now. Silent Hill
Is that a
F.
couple?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Silent
I
Hill
was
2
going to
remake was
say
a couple of
this
years ago. Silent Hill
It's
F.
that old already?
No, I'm not a human.
Oh yes,
yeah,
that one.
okay,
That one's
yeah.
actually pretty good. I will give you that.
No, I'm not a human. How have I not heard of this?
No, it's
It is
I
a
was going to say,
rather
it hasn't just been
confusing
a good year for horror games. It's been a great year for independent games on top of that, and
Yes.
horror games are good to make.
Well, the other one I'm going to say is by Bloober Team, who did the Silent Hill 2 remake, Chronos New Dawn.
Oh, yeah, I did hear good
yep.
things about that.
It is a very good horror game, especially the way they play it off is like the further along you get, the more your suit gets haunted and more creepy shit happens. Especially when you get into this point where you're like, okay, I can talk to these souls that are inhabiting my suit for the moment. And it goes into like this freaky red aura area. And these souls can, like, they move around, they talk really weird. There's a whole bunch of, like, really strange camera angles. And just the whole way they do it is very unsettling. And I would definitely recommend, if you haven't seen anything from it, I would say watch that first scene of it. Like, the very first soul you have to pick up for the game, watch that entire interaction for the first one.
I believe I've seen it was either Az from Heel vs Babyface play a little bit of Chronos, or if it wasn't him, I know there's a certain VTuber that I watched that was playing through Chronos the New Dawn as well too. So it is definitely a game I'm kind of interested in picking up when I get the chance.
It is quite a fun game.
Just kind of a quick off
It's
topic kind of thing.
It's a Silent Hill game without needing to be Silent Hill.
Ah, okay. All right. That
like,
sounds
it
pretty
is
good.
very Silent Hill-like in just the atmosphere of everything not being quite right.
All right.
And then last year we had some great ones too. Like, we had Still Wakes the Deep last year.
Just a quick thing that I do have to say. I do have to kind of do a hard off right now. I kind of have to get going, unfortunately. But I very much enjoy this conversation. It's really good conversation, like talking about horror, what makes good horror, and just kind of going down memory lane on a lot of the good horror stuff that we watched over the years.
We have been recording for over 2 hours, so why don't we call it here for the night?
Man. Okay, I just want to say one thing that I'm super excited for is the new Hellraiser game, because it is in the vein of Condemned, and it's supposed to actually push the limits of what a mature rated game is. So that's something I'm very much looking forward to.
That might be a game that has people talk about the adults only rating again, which is probably going to be pretty cool. Yeah.
It's nice to see an adults only rating that's not for an adult game.
And
like
it's
adult in
Saber
the other
Interactive.
sense.
Right.
And Saber Interactive is who's doing it. Unbelievable. So cool. So, but no, I very much enjoyed this conversation. You guys are always a treat to talk to.
I'm always just happy to have something going on. And like I said, for me, I'm going to be playing Other Side around Halloween. So I'm going to be playing something that's not a traditional horror game, but I think the monster design in it is incredible. And just the fact that it's an XCOM roguelike is insane to me. And the game came out 5 years ago, and its entire art style is black and white and red for blood, and that's it.
And I'll play anything that plays like XCOM.
So I'll try and stream that later on. I know Little Nightmares 3 just came out too.
Yes, it did. Recently did.
Yeah, that came out a couple of days ago.
There's another game also that came out. I believe it's in a similar vein to Little Nightmares 3. What was it called? The Midnight Walk. That's another game that came. Well, this one came out back in May, but this one also looks kind of interesting as well too. Actually, Midnight Walk looks like a fascinating game. Oh my goodness.
And one that I haven't played, but I very much do want to play because I played the original, is Amnesia: The Bunker. I know this is a bit older, but I've wanted to play that for quite some time. And that came out in 2023 at the very end. So I guess it's not too old. It's going to be 3 years old here coming up pretty soon. But I mean, I hear nothing but great things about that game, and I very much want to play that.
And on that note, I think we will call it there for the night. It's we've been going for 2 hours now, over 2 hours. And like I said, it's always just entertaining to have everyone come in and talk about like different kind of genres and having fun with talking about just kind of getting off track and back on track. Just kind of going all over the place.
Yeah, I know what I'm going to watch later.
And hopefully with this one being more on season, we might get some more views than maybe 5.
Hey, I'm down for any amount of views, even if it's 0. I don't care. I had fun making it, and that's what it's really about, if you ask me.
Oh, definitely.
I'm just glad we didn't wait on Ebola.
Yeah,
that's true too.
He hasn't shown up.
Man, that's
but
an
again, I just want to
goon.
thank you guys for showing up here and talking to us with that.
Of course.
Yeah, it's all good.
I have no idea what we're going to do for next month. Might talk about different decades of movies.
That was my idea, but I mean, we can cover basically any multimedia stuff, and I'll have a good time with it. I do not care. It can be books, it can be movies, it can be TV shows, video games, whatever. I don't care.
We can cover the Thanksgiving movies. I can think of one: Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Okay, I'm out.
Well,
I can think of another that falls into the horror genre, horror comedy.
Yeah, literally Thanksgiving itself, or Thanksgiving too. Yeah, there's that as well.
Gobble,
shoving motherfucker. Yeah.
Yeah, we go straight into Christmas with Santa's sleigh with Goldberg.
And Silent Night is coming out too. The remake of Silent Night.
That's right. They are making a remake
Deadly
of
Night.
Silent Night, Deadly Night. That's actually quite surprising. They're making some. They're remaking some more obscure horror, like holiday horror films, which is quite interesting.
I was not even think we'd get into like holiday horror, as in like winter holidays. Like I associate. Oh, fucking Campia. God damn it. I was more associating with like Halloween with a fall holiday. When you have Thanksgiving horror movies and Christmas horror movies, what the hell? Granted, they are fun.
Well, one of the greatest horror movies of all time is definitely the classic Black Christmas, the original.
Yes.
Not the American remakes, the original Canadian movie Black Christmas, where you have no idea who the killer is at all. And the only time you ever see him is just his eye looking through a door, and that's it.
And unfortunately, you never even find out whether he gets discovered at all. You just hear the ringing of the phone in that house by the end of it again.
And it's just a great film. You have your ambiguous ending, you have your horror and tension, and you have your holiday fix as well right there.
And then, of course, my favorite Christmas movie, Die Hard. Yes. Not a horror film, but my favorite Christmas movie.
I don't know. We could spend 2.5 hours talking about Die Hard if it came to it for December. But granted, we still got to get through November 1st.
Yeah.
I'll talk about any John McTiernan film, please.
So we will call it for the night right there. I will be editing this tomorrow probably.
Fantastic.
So, again, thanks to you guys for joining me.
Of course.
Thanks to Atomic Patriot and MCampy fan for giving us some fun in the chat. Because I am recording this on Discord. We have the Fireside Chat Discord window popped out at the time of recording this. So, of course, the text part of that is showing. And we will talk to everybody else later. Have a good night, everybody. And happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.